Mashawana pays 100,000 Rand, roughly 100,000 Rand, towards Malaka's property development. So there's first that payment, and then very soon after that, Mashawana is appointed by the IDT to do by far the most lucrative part of that EPWP work.
Myburg says Malaka did not respond to questions about the money in question, while Mashawana told him to take any evidence he has to the authorities. With the national budget passed and the GNU tensions having simmered somewhat, the DA again looks set to stoke the fires when it announces its reform plan today for 3 contentious pieces of legislation. These include the broad-based Black Economic Empowerment, the Employment Equity Act and the Expropriation Bill. Lindsay Tentlinga takes a look.
The DA has made it clear it's not prepared to let go of its opposition to certain laws passed by the previous administration and before the formation of the GNU. In February, the party filed a case in the Western Cape High Court against the Expropriation Act to challenge the constitutionality of expropriation without compensation. The party's Minister of Public Works, Dean McPherson, is in the awkward position of having to implement it, with the court yet to hear the case. In May, the DA argued before the North Gauteng High Court that race quotas in the labour sector, as imposed by the Employment Equity Act, are unconstitutional. Judgment in that matter is still awaited. Today, the party's leader, John Steenhuisen, is expected to be joined by all DA ministers to present what the party says is a set of urgent, practical and implementable reforms and alternatives to these acts, and around which it will campaign. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
Legacy foundations, which have pulled out of the first leg of the National Dialogue, insist it wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. The foundations, which formed part of the preparatory task team, opted not to participate in this week's first convention of the dialogue. They flagged concerns over procurement and constraints due to the delayed release of funds. But President Cyril Ramaphosa has decided to push on with the event, with his office saying that the budget will depend on in-kind contributions, including donations and other resources. Attempts to mediate between government and the PTT have been unsuccessful, and its deputy chairperson, Lindiwe Gadd, who also represents the Chief Albert Luthuli Foundation, says issues raised were mostly about logistics.
But coming out of that mediated process, it became clear that there are intractable differences from the foundations who have subsequently withdrawn and the colleagues on the other side, particularly those colleagues from government and the colleagues from Netherlands, to a lesser extent.
And Australia says it will recognize a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly in September, following similar moves by the UK, France and Canada. Israel, under increasing pressure to end the war in Gaza, has said recognizing a Palestinian state rewards terrorism. Since Saturday, 5 people have died because of starvation and malnutrition in Gaza, bringing the total number to 217, while 5 Al Jazeera journalists were killed by an Israeli targeted strike near Gaza City's Al-Shifa hospital. More than 61,000 people have been killed as a result of Israel's military campaign since 2023. Israel launched its offensive in response to the Hamas-led attack on 7 October that year, in which about 1,200 people were killed and more than 250 others were taken hostage. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese.
Australia will recognise the right of the Palestinian people to a state of their own, predicated on the commitments Australia has received from the Palestinian Authority. We will work with the international community to make this right a reality.
Gold is trading at $3,377.26 an ounce. The rand is at 17.72 to the dollar, 23.86 to the pound, 20.68 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $66.28 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got an accident reported on the M2 West. It's right near Boysons Road. It's causing heavy traffic volumes coming out of Wema Pan Heidelberg Road while traveling on the Mike 1 North bumper-to-bumper traffic on this route between Boysons and Carr Street.
A fine day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 20 and 21 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: the Daily Maverick has published the latest installments of an investigation into the suspended CEO of the Independent Development Trust, this time linking her to prominent businessman Colin Mashawana.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Good morning to you and you and you. It's 7 minutes past 9. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia in for Clement, who just celebrated his birthday. Madimeja, we're sending you all the love, all the joy. Happy birthday to you, my friend. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock today. On our radar this morning, we'll discuss the National Dialogue. I mean, it's a massive talking point, isn't it? So we'll try and unpack that impasse over the project. Remember, last week I said finger pointing was already happening. It already ensued. So we'll look at what remains of those stories and those clashes and the issues around the funds and preparations. That's between 10 and 10:30. At 10:30, we'll look at the introduction of a sexual harassment policy for the Judiciary by the Chief Justice Mandisa Maya. In the third and final hour, it's family matters. There we'll discuss Step Parenting 101. So all your questions, everything you wanted to know, your anecdotes as well, are more than welcome when we have that discussion between 11 and 12. Of course, we start the show with the open. And where do you want us to go? There's so much to pick at. What do you want us to discuss? Is it Gayton McKenzie and the K-word saga? Is it the National Dialogue that now needs a dialogue of its own? Or is it the Maibuye, Africa Maibuye, which we all knew would be contesting elections, confirming that it's seeking to contest the elections? Mind you, Africa Maibuye has only been around since June. They've consulted enough to know right now, as I speak to you, that they want to be on the ballot next year. Do we need more parties? And it doesn't have to be political. I'm mentioning a lot of political stories. Listen, it does not need to be that at all. You can raise whatever you want. Me, I'm down for anything. You call the shots. 011-883-0702 to raise topics, to weigh in on the topics we'll be discussing. 072-702-1702. That's for your voice notes and WhatsApps. Let's chat.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
So yesterday, Sunday, I decided, and this is not what I do for fun. Somebody said to me, Abel said to me, this is what he thinks I do for fun, is go to political gatherings. No, I have a life. But yesterday, I decided to go to the Africa Maibu engagement because it was in the Joburg CBD. I live in the East. It's not too far. But I wanted to go. I've always wanted to kind of go because you kind of want to feel, when you hear about something and you're not sure what it is, what it's about, you want to get a sense of what this thing is actually about that you keep hearing about. So I wanted to touch it, to feel it myself, just to get a sense of what is actually Floyd going on about. I've been curious about it. I wanted to get the mood for myself. So I went to the CBD, to the Joburg City Hall in the CBD yesterday. So the program was due to start at 1. I'm going to tell you a few things that I picked up on. The program was due to start at 1. It did not start at 1. Surprise, surprise. Other takeaways for me, there were a lot of familiar faces that I found really interesting. I found a lot of familiar faces. Some of them even saying to me, don't you remember we met in 2013 when I was campaigning for EFF? So a lot of familiar faces that I associate with the EFF were actually there. Your Musa Novellas. I didn't realize that Musa Novella had also followed. I mean, it's quite obvious when you look at the history of who Musa Novella is and his relationship with Floyd Shivambu, but he was also there. Then I realized that what Floyd Shivambu's also done in the short space of time, is he picked up on all the tricks that they use in the EFF. The EFF has a really savvy media team. The live streams, the sound, he's got all of that. And I kept asking myself, how is this all possible so quickly? Maibuye, Africa Maibuye, guys, was launched in June. What's interesting about me standing in for Clement today, I thought about is that actually it was around about this time last year when I was saying, I know what's going to happen in the EFF. I know Floyd Shivambu was going to leave. And he announced that he was leaving. So it's been in the space of a year. He's wore 3 different colors, EFF, MKP, and now Africa Maibuye. And then he's saying that they also will be on the ballot. So they've consulted enough since June, July, August. They've done enough to know that they must contest the politics next year. What I also found interesting is the setup is actually well established. So they have a women's league. Yesterday they were talking about a youth league. They have a medic center. There's so many things. So it's absolutely fascinating. The structures fascinate me. Then even the travel, like they'd fully paid for the hall. I'm like, where does the money even come from? You just started. How are they able to afford all of this? I mean, the ANC, the mighty ANC, can barely afford a venue for an NEC meeting. Here's Floyd, massive, massive undertaking in an organization that's been around for just less than 3 months. So I found that really fascinating. And yes, I did ask, is it Bushiri? Is it mining? Is it a question of people who are funding the EFF and now funding them? So I have a lot of questions. I'm very curious. He's somebody who I'd really love to have an interview with who hasn't agreed. But I am very curious. But I want you to take a listen, of course, to what he had to say about the ballots.
We are, of course, in a consultation process. But it's not a secret that the overwhelming views of the people of South Africa from all the provinces that we have gone to thus far, the overwhelming view even from all the regions of Gauteng which were consulted by the provincial consultation team, is that we should constitute Africa Maibuye into a revolutionary political movement, part of which will be a political party to contest elections. And because we know what we are doing, we are already in the process of registering Africa Maibuye movement as a political party, which will contest elections in 2026, in 2029, and moving forward. And we are not just going to contest elections. We are going to contest elections to win elections, particularly here in the province of Gauteng.
Guys, they've been around for less than just 2 odd months or so, 3 months. And as I said to you yesterday, I was like, oh, this thing is solidly set up already. And they are moving towards elections. I mean, some people have seen the difference of opinion saying, no, they're rushing the process. For me, the question is, do we need another party on the ballot? And I know people have written them off, but actually I'm starting to believe that what might happen is a seat or two will emerge. And you might say that means nothing. Then I'd say to you, well, think about Kabelo Kwamanda and Tapelo Ahmad. They can write on their CVs, whether you like it or not, because that's the era that we're in. They can actually write on their CVs, have been mayor of the city of Johannesburg. That's the politics of today. That's what they delivered. So Floyd Shivambu moving towards the elections in an era where there's so much bartering and there's so much madness that happens in this era of coalitions could actually come up with something that he can utilize. Spoke to Julius Malema a few weeks ago on Politrick on the podcast, and Julius said, well, if talking has to happen with Floyd, we'll do it. Even if they view it as a great betrayal, when it comes down to it, if he goes to contest elections, has enough to negotiate, they'll have that negotiation. I find that I'm literally jaw on the floor at how fast all of this is happening. It's been a year. 011-883-0702, 072-7021-702 if you want to weigh in on that story.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
Another story that's caught my attention this weekend. I watched him on Facebook last night. I don't know if anyone's ever watched The Boondocks. Do you guys know The Boondocks? Have you ever heard of that? It's a cartoon. I like cartoons, even adult versions. But anyway, so I watched The Boondocks, and in The Boondocks, there's this character named Uncle Ruckus. Uncle Ruckus is a black man who does not necessarily see himself as a black man. Says he's got a skin condition. He's a black man who hates black people, supposedly. And that's what Gayton McKenzie has been labeled. Of course, this as tweets that he supposedly posted back in the day have surfaced, calling black people the K word, they smell, they this, they that. All manner of things were being said by Gayton McKenzie, who just last week was raising hell over that. Is it Open Chats podcast and what those kids were saying? Again, that wasn't okay. That's not allowed. That's discrimination. There was a great issue to be taken with their comments around the colored community, rightfully so. And then this week, then the very same guy who's kicking dust about racism is then found wanting with his views about black people. So political parties such as EFF, Action SA, the DA, I think even ATM have all complained in one way or another, some even taking action. So I understand that Gayton McKenzie has been reported to the Human Rights Commission. I know ATM has written already to the Ethics Committee. Many of these political parties are calling for his resignation. Parties are saying that, yes, those are old posts, but they remain harmful, especially for those on the receiving end. It was Bob Marley who said, "Who feels it knows it." So that argument holds water for some. McKenzie, though, on his part, held a Facebook Live. As I said, he really, really loves Facebook Lives. I think for him, in his party's, in his capacity as a party leader, he doesn't have media briefings. He has Facebook Lives where he talks to his constituency, doesn't want to engage via the media. I don't know why in a democracy, but that's what we're seeing. So he holds this live to address the claims that have been leveled against him, pretty much taking rather full ownership of some of the posts, distancing himself from others. In some instances, saying he was misunderstood. In others, he said you need to understand the context better. And also saying that he was a different person back then, that he wasn't guided at the time by aspirations of holding public office, which he does now. I want you to listen quickly to Gayton McKenzie's own take on the backlash, which he says, by the way, is purely political.
There's this thing where I never thought people will accuse me of racism. So I answer to the people. I don't answer to the Twitter mob. I answer to the people of the Patriotic Alliance. Our media has never had a time to just this thing can, you can get an elementary student, kindergarten student that is good to find out what I'm going to tell you now, if it's the truth or whatever. I'm still going to post everything that I'm saying here afterwards, just so that you can know the truth. Number one, in my entire life, I've never called anybody the K word. Never. Where's the victims? This is a political campaign driven by EFF together with some, they call them influencers on Twitter. Excuse me. Let them show me. You said to, you Gayton, said to point B, you said to that person, this person, you use the K word when referring to that person. They can't. They have gone back to, do you know they went back 11 years? Do you know how much money it is to have people investigate each and everything that you've done in your life? Now, this is a political campaign. So the first thing I want to say is, if there must be a victim, racism has a victim. Who's the victim? Who did I ever use the K word to? That's number one. That's the first thing they should prove. Alles mal. I've never. But I'm going to go deeper in tonight, Patriots. Number one, they can't say, there's a lady called Penny Sparrow, I think. She's in jail for using the K word against people. Can somebody tell me where's the K word that I used against who? That's number one. Number two, is there anybody in this world that can say, I've treated them, I've been racist with them? Anyone?
So those are some of the views from that Facebook Live. It's a very long Facebook Live. He goes on and on when he's on Facebook. But what is your take? Yeah? He says there should be a victim, that there is no victim. Again, I'd make an argument that he was claiming, because I watched a bit of that live last night, and he was saying at some point that, you know, a lot of these are taken out of context, that it's all political. This is EFF going after him. This is everybody going after him. He takes issue with all of you going back 11 years into his past. At some point, he speaks about how he was a different person back then, held very different aspirations. I mean, he even speaks about the lifestyle he and particularly his partner, the deputy president of the PA, Kenny Kunene, lived. But I'd make an argument. Bob Marley says, those who know it feel it. Why is he not understanding? I mean, he's gone on to explain that he's the son of a black mother. And then he gets like this very weird language. And I think he says he sleeps with black. He's made a child with a black woman. And gets into all of that. The EFF now with Tambo responding this morning had a lot of tweets, I think, about this, saying, Chief, you said if those open chat kids do not face consequences, it'll destroy them because they'll think racism is okay. You said, as painful as it was, you had to ask Kenny, this is Kunene, to step aside so that he can be investigated, even though you believe he's innocent. What lessons will be learned by you and society if you remain in charge of our sports, arts, and culture while hating black people with a passion? You can be born of a black woman, sleep with black women, and still hate black people. Your reasoning is nonsense. He says apartheid whites were raised by black domestic workers and hated and opposed them regardless. Leave government out of your hate. Resign, Gayton. The question to you is, where do you stand on all of this? Should he be resigning? 011-883-0702 072-702 Kamu, you are in Johannesburg. Good morning.
Morning, Tshidi. Yes. You know what I don't like about people like Gayton in particular, and he's not an isolated case, but I want to talk about him in particular. Gayton wants to change the race card depending on the situation. If there's a business opportunity or he makes money or is going to get some type of influence or power, then he's black. And similarly, if the opportunity aligns on a personal level or even on a business level, but it needs him to be colored, then he's colored. Now, Gayton cannot be colored on a Monday, black on a Tuesday, colored on a Wednesday, black on a Thursday. It can't work like that. He needs to decide what he is, but he changes race depending on what am I confronted with. I mean, when I look at Clement Manyathela and from the stories that are now popping up that his father was black, his mother was black, they changed surnames because of having benefits under the apartheid. Like a lot of black people, they're changing their surnames to surnames like Wet Boy. Wet Boy, I mean, what black person is Wet Boy? That doesn't even make sense. But depending on what people get, they want to change and swap races. And this needs to come to an end. Gayton is a professional racist. Professional, just like a lot of people in the DA, like Helen Zille, they want to say things and swap statements and flip-flop depending on the convenience of the day.
Yeah. All right, Kamu, thank you so much. Let's come out in Johannesburg saying that Gayton McKenzie vacillates. Depending on where the benefit lies, that's where his argument will be. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were more people who shared in Kamu's view. Guy, or is it G in Johannesburg? Good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to 702 and listeners.
Sure, good morning.
So, I mean, the thing is, we've heard the lives, we've heard the comments, but people are calling for Gayton to step down as the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. He's doing a phenomenal job. So, I mean, why would you want a guy doing his job, showing what he can do, showing his salt? There's no reason for him to step down. Absolutely no reason for him to step down.
So you want to separate? So you want to separate who he was a decade ago versus who we think he is now? Because part of the argument that's been put forward, I just read Sinawa Tambo's tweet. That's a person who's seen as hateful towards a grouping in society. Should you not respond to that perception? He must just be seen in isolation from how he's perceived. Because if you are, let me try to find a way to put it. If you're perceived to hate one particular grouping when you're meant to be in service of the whole, there will be an issue. You'll be slanted with how you service people. In fact, the arguments around Gayton McKenzie, if you've been paying attention, is that he is trying to move particular people out of the departments and move in a particular grouping into the department. He is accused of discrimination on the job. That is something that follows him. And when you look at those kind of tweets, then you can't help but connect what his views were then with some of his actions now, where he's serving in a public portfolio, he's using public power and public money.
Yes, okay. I'm listening to what you're saying. But he's serving the public. He's serving the public. That is the most important factor here. And the thing is now, people are bringing up old things. I mean, it's the same thing with what people say about the past president being Jacob Zuma, the current president, and all their corruption scandals. However, Jacob Zuma served the people. Whether he served them good or bad, that's a story for another day.
Okay.
So Ramaphosa is currently serving the people. Whether he's serving them good or bad, again, a story for another day.
Okay.
This guy, Gayton McKenzie, is serving the people.
All right.
He's doing a very good job.
All right, G. Thank you so much. That's G in Johannesburg. I think G missed my point. Is if you are accused of discriminating via the tweets, the views, and that's supposedly following you in how you then do your job, that means you haven't changed. What's that saying? A leopard not changing its spots, skin, that thing? That's what people are accusing him of. Is that not something we should be paying attention to or trying to interrogate further? Jermaine in Joburg South, hi.
Hi, Tshidi. Tshidi, I'm looking at all this as well, and like I'm saying also, how do we assess a person whether when they're using a K word? Is it when they're using in reference to someone as bad, or what if someone just says it as an educational setting, or use the word when we're referring to a system? Is the fact that if we just say the K word in its full, is that the problem on its own, or is the problem where when I say okay,
targeted an individual?
Okay. You understand? So I don't understand, because it seems as though a person could be speaking something and could be referring, and they use the K word in fullness in referring to a system, in referring to a particular view, and now all of a sudden you're not supposed to say it. I mean, every word I can say in a dictionary.
So that's what she's also raising.
The context is there. I'm not saying that Jerome is at this here and they're all like this. That could be problematic. But if I'm referring to a system by using the word, why is it a problem? And another thing too is, if you look at Gayton, we had a past. He had a criminal past. He had a criminal background, and we as a society and as a media have accepted him to run a certain office. How is it okay now that we accept people to run having a background, but when their past background also, I'm not saying he said it, but when your past background also illustrates a certain direction, you can't accept it. So we are hypocritical. Ourselves, people, the media is hypocritical in judging people. We allow people to run for certain things, but as soon as we hear him say something else, now it's not a problem. You can't run in office because you use the K word. I mean, like the last caller said, the man is doing a phenomenal job. It's got nothing to do with his work ethic. And another thing too, I strongly believe that the EFF and certain platforms are pushing the narrative, because what happened last week with this other group, Open Cast Chat.
But majority of us, hold on, Jermaine, just very quickly on that, pushing a narrative about last week. Many of us were in agreement last week that those kids were wrong. Many of us are in agreement that you don't speak like that about people. You don't make those assertions, that they were incorrect. I didn't see a lot of people who were in agreement with those kids because they were wrong. Scientifically speaking, they were wrong. It's distasteful. It's a lie. And they should have been able to check each other. None did. So I don't see how that the questions around Gayton, because people are offended by last week. We're in agreement as society about last week. We're in agreement that those kids were wrong.
Okay, now I want us to discuss this. I hear you. I want to discuss this. When can you say the K word? Or is it a word that you can never, under no circumstances, even if I'm saying to you, hey, you know what? I remember before when I was small, and then I went here, and if people said the K and they mentioned and said to me, I'm a K.
No.
Am I wrong for saying the word in itself, or am I only wrong if I say so and so is a that, or so and so is a that?
That's what Gayton's actually asking, by the way. Jermaine, I'm going to leave it there because it's 9:30. That's actually the question that you're asking is what Gayton is asking, and maybe another Gayton is on the line. I'm going to come to you after the headlines, Gayton and Santon. Maybe he's got the answer. Maybe he's got the answer. But that is the question that Gayton did ask yesterday, saying that there is no victim, saying that he was explaining the word, it wasn't targeted at somebody. But in order to be to say a word that offends people, it doesn't have to be offended by somebody's actions. It doesn't have to be targeted at you. I can be in the room and be offended by action that I'm seeing taking place. I can see you mistreat people and be offended by it without it being targeted at me, Tshidi, in the room. Does that make sense? Anyway, it's 9:31. I'm a little bit late. We still got your headlines.
Thanks, Tshidi. Good morning. The EFF says it's hypocritical for Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie to call out racism when he himself has a history of uttering racial slurs towards black people. Over the weekend, old social media posts resurfaced in which McKenzie used several derogatory terms to describe black people. Basic Education Minister Sivuyo Gwagube has appealed to politicians not to use the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill as a political football. The chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee, Joy Maimela, this weekend said that the committee was unhappy that only 2 draft regulations from the Act were gazetted by Gwagube last week. And Gauteng's tourism sector has injected 41 billion rand into the provincial GDP for the 2024-25 financial year. Economic Development MEC Lebogang Maile says this is above the targeted 21 billion rand set by his department. Maile shared his update yesterday during a briefing on the department's performance. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling on the N3 north in the Germiston area, we've got a car on fire right at the Geldenes interchange. It's causing about a 20-minute hold-up coming out of the Yelands interchange. Please be on the lookout there and approach with care. If you're already finding yourself in the scene, please do slow down and offer help if you can. While traveling in Bedford View, we've got delays on the R24 West. This is towards the Giludi's interchange. An accident scene is reported there. Delays coming out of Edenville Road. The R24 and N12 West are also affected there. While traveling on the N1 North, this is just heading towards the Roodepoort area. We've got some delays approaching the Gordon Road exit. This is on the N1 North. Please be on the lookout. And there's also queuing traffic reported on the N1 South heading towards Midrand coming out of Olifantsfontein Road. I'll have more updates for you. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
The saga playing itself out in the Eastern Cape involving the Judge President Selby Menenge to see the need for such a policy. It's a 25-page document. What are some of the key elements to it, do you think?
It defines what sexual harassment is. And I think that is imperative considering that a lot of people actually don't know how to define the term and they don't know how it can manifest in different ways.
Kibakatso Nchodu is a legal researcher and advocacy officer at Judges Matter, reflecting on the sexual harassment policy that was announced by Chief Justice Mandisa Maya.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
They've helped you chase fitness goals, family adventures, and freedom on 2 wheels. From expert advice to last-minute fixes before your next ride, a great bike shop does more than sell gear. They keep you moving safely and confidently. Whether it's your weekend trail partner or your daily commute lifeline, if there's a shop that's earned your trust, now's your chance to say, I see you. Nominate your favorite of Gauteng's greatest bicycle shops at primediaplus.com because Gauteng isn't just the hub of business, it's the home of excellence, and excellence deserves your applause. Gauteng's greatest awards with 702, powered by Yoko. Let Yoko counter-fuel your business to greatness. Go to yoko.com to explore the new point of sale solution, saving hundreds of businesses time and money.
When you empower a woman, you empower a whole nation. Women have a remarkable way of multiplying whatever is placed in their hands. This August, we're celebrating Women's Month with the theme Building Resilient Economies for All. We reflect and honor the courageous women of 1956 who took a stand against the injustices of the past. We also recognize and celebrate all South African women who continue to lead, build, and inspire across every part of our society, from business and education to peace building and beyond. Yes, there is still much to be done. The pursuit to achieving total gender equality and empowerment will continue until every woman is able to enjoy the benefits of a safe and just society. #Rekaufela Basadi. #Women's Month 2025. A message by the National Department of Sport, Arts and Culture.
Dreaming of your next getaway? Whether it's a sun-soaked beach escape, adventure-packed tour, or luxury cruise, Flight Center is your go-to for travel. From flights and hotels to tours and cruises, we've got it all. Plus travel insurance for peace of mind. If you want the best deals, you can save more by taking advantage of our Bundle Plus Save offer. Plan your trip today at your nearest Flight Centre store or visit flightcentre.co.za. Flight Centre, your centre for travel.
Young professionals aren't just changing jobs, they're walking away from the system itself. This Thursday on 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa, we'll bring you a discussion inspired by the Old Mutual Thought Leaders Forum and explore the growing loyalty gap in the workplace. We'll find out what's fueling the resignation wave, why traditional retirement benefits alone no longer buy commitment, and how employers can evolve to meet the needs of a generation that's demanding more. Don't miss this important conversation, Thursday, 14 August, brought to you by Old Mutual Corporate on 702.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
It's 9:37, the Clement Manyathela Show, Tshidi Madia in for Clement. It's open now, we're discussing a variety of issues. I see a lot of you weighing in on the issue of Gayton McKenzie. All tweets coming back to haunt the minister. So the past, you live consistently in the past, the present, yeah. So they've come back to haunt him, and now there are calls for the minister to resign. A lot of people going back and forth about his use of the K word. When is it allowed? When is it not allowed? A friend of mine just WhatsApp saying, in terms of the Equality Court's jurisprudence, you can, for example, use the apartheid flag, hate speech, which that's what it's been ruled, in certain contexts, artistic performance. And I think even when you are educating, right, in a context where you are educating people and explaining the words, then I think the word can come into play. And I think that's what Gayton McKenzie yesterday was attempting to explain, that he was giving context, in essence, that it wasn't targeted at anybody, which is why last night he kept saying, where are the victims? Show me the victims. There are no victims. But I'd make an argument that those who feel it know it. And there's a reason why people take offense. But of course, that doesn't strip away the politics of it all. Part of what is at play is political theater around an issue like this. But at the heart of it, there's also the seriousness and also the substance of the man, right? You judge who Gayton McKenzie is. 011-883-0702 for calls, 072-702-1702 for voice notes and WhatsApps. Let me play a few of your voice notes quickly.
Morning, Tshidi. Yeah, the issue of Gayton McKenzie, it's a very sad issue. My view on the matter, I think he should resign, or if he doesn't resign, the president should fire him, because if this matter is not handled well, next time when the DA complain that the president is inconsistent, it will hold water. Because, uttering K-words repeatedly, it's a very concerning. Actually, when I saw the story, I thought maybe it's just a fake story. It's just a fake news. So how do you remain a minister of sports while you have said that?
CD and the team, I just wanted to, with Gayton McKenzie, I just want to know, what will now the president do? Because we can't have a minister of arts and culture representing everyone and then being so racist. And then now he comes back and then he's blaming AI. And there's no way, if you look at his page, there's no way an AI can print so many words of being racist towards certain groups. And he's racist towards an Indian group and Black people. So, and also the way he speaks about children and the on one of his tweets, the way he speaks about kids and all of that stuff. So it doesn't make sense. So what is the president going to do about it? Because we can't have a minister who says things like that and then he's not being held accountable. He must be held accountable like he's holding other people too, which is right.
Hi, Tshidi, this is Solly here. I think people forget that even Professor Adam Habib, you might recall when he arrived in the UK, he was speaking and not necessarily addressing somebody directly, and he mentioned the N-word, and he was pulled over the coals because of that. So it's not really in that one has to be addressing the word at a specific person. It's just the word is offensive for all the reasons that we know. I don't think McKenzie should necessarily be fired, but I think he should apologize fully and offer not to do that again.
Thank you so much. Yes, you're right. That Adam Habib matter, I think far back as 2021, where the students themselves would not accept it. And he was using it in a classroom context, if you may, and that wasn't accepted by the students. I remember that very well. He did go back to work. It was clear, if I remember well. On the WhatsApp line, Musedi in Rustenburg says, morning. It's funny that it's okay to use the K word in a system, but kill the boer referring to a system is, however, offensive to white people. Okay. Somebody else says here, Pumlani says, Ronaldo Kho's comments came back to haunt him. Why should it be different for the minister? Let's stick to the principles of who is involved, regardless of who's involved. I think that's an important one. And I think the Ronaldo Kho's argument, one would say, was placed at the door of the DA and the DA acted. The Gayton McKenzie matter gets placed at the door of the PA. And what happens when it's the president of the organization who's found wanting, especially where they've said to you, there's no democracy here. There are no democratic practices in the PA. They do it at a whim as they feel. And please, Kenny Kunene has said that to me on politicking himself. Like, yeah, there'll be no such. We'll do what we think is best. So what happens when the leaders then called into question? Mind you, there have been questions around directives that Gayton McKenzie gives at the department for months now, since being appointed. I've always said he's a happy chappy, happy to be a minister. That is who Gayton McKenzie is. But how he then goes about doing his job, are we not allowed to criticize that? We'll criticize that. And when comments like these come up, right? And then you link it to complaints about directives and how he discriminates on the basis of nationality, then those tweets carry weight. Then those tweets are not just empty. Going to your phone lines. Now, I did say earlier that Gayton, the other Gayton who's in Sandton, might have a response around the issue of there is no such thing as a victim. Gayton, good morning.
Tshidi, how are you?
Very good. You are not the Gayton that's under fire, but yes.
most definitely not. Next, listen, Tshidi, let's first address one thing about Gayton. People are saying that he does a superb and phenomenal job. No, he's not. Sport is in tatters as we're speaking right now. Federations haven't received funding. All their budgets that they signed with the department for 3 years have been slashed between 40 and 60%. The Olympic Committee of South Africa received zero budget. Everything has just gone thrown out of the water because Gayton wants to bring in the VAR, because Gayton wants to bring in Formula One, because Gayton wants to bring in Live Golf, and he wants to highlight spinning. So the rest of the 80 federations in the country are suffering because of these policies that Gayton is bringing in. And you'll find a lot of these federations might even shut down and close up because of these type of policies. But that's the one side of him. Relating to this particular side, he asks, who's the victim, Tshidi? Let's go to Adam Casavello's interview. Took a video, spoke, and it had nothing to do with identifying certain people. He just spoke about all the white people on the beach, all right? And he had to answer to that particular one, and he got wrapped on the knuckles for that. Gayton is asking who's the victim. Read his tweets. A K person is only interested in getting cattle and having a wife and sitting at home. Then he refers to the black women as monkeys and that type of thing. I mean, who is he speaking to? Who's the victim? The victim is the complete race of the black people, not only in South Africa, throughout the world. That's the victims. Those people are the victims. We are the victims. So you want to ask who's the victim? The victim is the whole black race that you have identified with the K word.
All right. All right, Gayton,
so
thank you so much.
That is my take.
Thank you. Gayton pointing out there also what the state of sports and arts is actually in our country on his watch. Saying it's one thing to praise the minister, but you actually need to interrogate what is actually happening. Peter and Santon, hi.
Yeah, Tshidi, Gayton brought all this onto himself, right? He shot himself in the foot. Because think about it, this whole thing started because of what he did. He was just after those podcasters, right? Who again, using his thinking didn't direct this thing to anybody. They just talk in general and say colored people are crazy, and then they do the incest, right? So, and then here's the thing: those youngsters apologize not once but twice. Right? But what did Gayton do? No, he was still carrying on and on and on and on. And then maybe somebody said, okay, this guy is so righteous, or he thinks he's so righteous, let's check his part. And that's when this thing came out. All he has to do, it's very simple, just apologize and everything. But then it's going to have a problem also with that. Because
there's a problem with apologizing that I could pick up last night.
Yes. Because now when he's going to try to apologize, other people are going to say, but why didn't now you accept the apology from those youngsters?
Those kids.
Right? They're just talking and just talking. You could see they were really thinking. So he's got a problem that he brought this onto himself. By just continue and following these youngsters, and then and we all know that obviously he was doing that thing to get the votes from the colored people that are now with DA. At least he was saying, and he has, in fact, because some people who are coming up now and say, Gayton McKenzie is looking out for us, therefore we're going to vote for him. So
right.
For him, on his part, it was a political maneuver, right?
Sure.
He saw this as an opportunity now to say, all right, I can garner some votes by feeling like I'm looking after the interest when nobody else is talking about them. Exactly.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter Artensant. And that conversation around the colored community is also an important one to have, because that is the big play. If you watch how the DA moves in the Western Cape and you watch what the PA is doing, and the fact that they all know that's where you can go get more votes. So particular decisions are made. And it's quite divisive. The politics of South Africa today, are very problematic, man. Incredibly problematic. Unison Kilani.
Yeah, hi there, Tshidi. Tshidi, you were talking of Ronaldo Host. Oh, incidentally, he's just now come out with a video, I don't know if you've seen it, where McKenzie had a go at him. He's now quoting Gayton McKenzie not 10 years ago, last year at the Biz News conference, and the language that he used, exactly the same language what Gayton is using a year ago. So
no,
many
he hasn't
people
changed.
are missing that point.
Thank you so much.
So no, one more point, Tshidi, that's now last year. Someone forwarded me Kenny Kunene's tweets in 2013, something about women, and I promise you, almost threw up. If you have a look at that, and I'm surprised women's groups haven't taken that up. In 2013, a series of tweets that he sent out, Kenny Kunene.
Sure.
And, I think the game that when we were youngsters, we played Monopoly, you picked up a card and it says, do not pay a fine, go straight to jail. I think it applies to both of them.
So, Eunice, thank you so much, Eunice Arin Kilani. He's raising an issue that, again, guys, you need to go watch that Facebook Live. That's all I'm saying, because he attempted to address all of those things, including the position on women around Kenny Kunene, the party guy, Kenny Kunene. But these are the people that have been given enough power to be at the table. When I spoke about Maibuya, Africa Maibuya, I said, Floyd doesn't need to target a lot, guys, to get at the table. He doesn't. The fact that you had a Tapelo Ahmad as a mayor of Johannesburg, then Kabelo Gwamanda could be mayor, tells you what kind of era we are in. So, of course, it will deliver the kinds of people like Kenny Kunene and Gayton McKenzie with the views that they've had. Those views aren't a secret. What's interesting enough, when Eunice says, go look at a video of comments he made last year, go listen to the comments last night. The K word still continues to remain a part and parcel of Gayton McKenzie's vocabulary as he tries to explain what went wrong. But anyway, let's take a quick break. I see all your calls. Antonio, James, Sammy, Tilizi. I see you all. I'm coming back.
Mom, Dad, you're not gonna believe this.
What's up, bud?
Luke's family has a kitchen.
Okay.
Like a real one, with knives and a sink for dishes. His mom was just standing there, making food with her hands. There was a fridge full of vegetables, even broccoli.
Not broccoli.
Oh, the horror. Who needs a kitchen? Simply spend 200 Rand or more and you could win Simply Asia for a year. T's and C's apply. Simply Asia, connecting the Thai way.
Isn't it time you got something out of your business insurance? Business Insurance are experts in business insurance for butcheries, convenience stores, restaurants, pharmacies, and more. Over 100,000 businesses across various industries trust them. Switch to business outsurance today, and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Get a quick and easy quote today. Call 08 600 60 000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's and information online.
And there you go, your favorite latte, hot and ready.
You never disappoint.
Listen, did you see that email? God, it's going down. Let's catch up later. Got another Zoom meeting.
Oh, okay, cool. Later.
Meet our audience. They are working, living their lives, sharing stories, and always listening. So if you're going to interrupt them, it better be good. Prime Media Broadcasting Sales. We help you connect with every productive, innovative, and dynamic individual in our audience. From the open plan office to the executive suite. Contact us at advertise@primemedia.co.za today.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
9:52. We are taking your calls, your voice notes, your WhatsApps. We're discussing the moment. The dominant conversation is the saga around the Arts and Culture Minister Gayton McKenzie and his use of the K word. People saying that he's not fit to be a minister. He never was. Well, the politics of today and the way you and I vote, in turn, in part, it's what's on offer that's given us this thing, right? We are all part and parcel of how we ended up here, I think. Sammy in Centurion I. Sammy? Sammy, I don't know if
can you hear
yes,
me?
loud and clear, go on.
Hello?
I can hear you, Sammy, go
Hello?
on. Sammy Karok, I
Yes.
can hear you.
Yes, with this whole thing of Gayton McKenzie, I say people are just blowing your stomach off a teacup. Because if you look at the time when he was using this K word, when was it 10 years ago?
And last night?
Pardon?
Even last night, he was using the K word. I was watching him on his Facebook Live. Continues to use the word.
Yes, but what Action SA, when Action SA laid charges against him, it was based on what he had said 10 years ago, wasn't it?
Absolutely. They're raising old tweets. But I'm saying to you, Sammy, even last night, he continues to explain himself, still using the word, not recognizing that there's a problem with the word.
Yes. Okay, maybe I didn't get it yesterday. Maybe I didn't get it for yesterday, but I'm saying that if we were to dig up things from the past, then we might end up having all of the leaders of the Chapter 9 institution being dismissed, because I can bet you most of them have said things that are disparaging about people.
But even then, Sammy, let's say you didn't hear last night. Sorry to cut in, but let's say you didn't hear last night. But the part where when he explains it, he wants to call it AI. When he explains it, he wants to blame other people. Where's the responsibility then in taking accountability for one's actions in those conversations? Because that's not what he's doing. He's deflecting at the moment. He's a victim at the moment.
Okay, I didn't get it. I didn't get the parts for the last night. All the conversation that I had, it was only for the past 10 years. So mine is about the past 10 years. So I'm saying that if we were to dig up the past, look at what someone has said in the past, you might end up having a situation where even the president has to step down. Because I can tell you there's some parts in the past where Ramaphosa has said some disparaging things about people, especially white people.
Okay.
So if we are to focus on what he has said yesterday, sure, let's hold him accountable. But for the stuff that he said for the past 10 years, let's let it go.
Okay, all right, Sammy.
Sure.
Thank you. Sammy says it's old news, let it go. That if you had to dig up everybody's past, all of us will be found wanting in one way or another. We'll have no cabinet if we continue. Antonio in Fairlands.
You see, Tshidi, if you were a politician, I would say you were very opportunistic, because you knew this topic was going to make the open lines very hot. So well done.
No, Antonio, I wanted to speak about other things. I want to speak about Africa.
You are an opportunist.
No, I'm a conversation starter, Antonio.
I want to say this. I want to say this. Okay. A lot of people have already covered what I wanted to say, but you know what? People of Mzansi, we are very forgiving people, and I believe that, people have committed far worse atrocities and have been forgiven. But the forgiveness that you will receive will be a measure of what you extend. And a lot of this has got to do with the opportunistic approach that the person concerned took in regard to those young children and what they said on that podcast. The approach could have been, these are children, they are ignorant. Let's have a conversation with them. Let's talk and understand why they have those views. The context doesn't matter for me. People trying to say that it was out of context and whatever. It's not about what I say, Tshidi. It's about how you receive it. So let's forget trying to get technical about context, the context that it was used in. Cyril Ramaphosa's son said something in Dubai about, black people and stuff like that. And that went away, okay? But he didn't hold public office. He didn't hold public office. Gayton holds a public office, and his views matter. His view matters. Correct. His view. Correct. And if he had been the bigger guy and not used last week's incident as political game, as point scoring, and make it seem like all colored people are offended by this statement. Yes, people were offended, but a lot of people would have chosen to respond very differently to that podcast and to make it about, championing the cause because of this and whatever. That's resulted in this. If there had been a different PA approach, a Gayton approach and not the one that he took last week, I tell you, these tweets would have been received very differently. But that response resulted in the digging, and now still trying to defend it and trying to give context as to all of that. That's making it worse. Just say, I'm sorry. If I'm in an argument with you, Tshidi, and I say, I'm sorry, and you say, but and I say, Tshidi, I said, I'm sorry. I take out the winds out of your sails.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's gone, it's finished.
I take, correct. You can't fight with me if I'm saying I'm sorry. The thing with Gayton's tweets and a lot of people, that podcast is a microcosm of conversations that are still happening in spaces and places. The only difference between Gayton's tweets and those podcasts is that there are some who get caught and some who don't get caught. We shouldn't be concerned about the ones that are published in podcasts, the ones that are published in tweets. We should be concerned about the conversations that are where people never get caught. And that's the dialogue. Correct.
Absolutely.
That's dialogue that must be had. Thank you, Tshidi.
Thank you so much, Antonio. That's actually a wonderful note to leave this conversation on, is that Gayton McKenzie missed a teaching moment, instead making it political. And I think it's that hunger for that share of the votes. And look at where he is now.
702 delivers
on the matters that matter to you.
I'm Nathan Ilunga. I'm Congolese. And one thing I love about 702 is the open line on Clement Manyathela Show and the Healing Hour. Overall, what I like most about the station is the different topic they cover. They broaden your mind and push you to think. They help you to become a critical thinker. So that's why I listen to 702.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
so we can deliver more on what matters to you.
702 listens.
Let's walk the talk.
Selling your car shouldn't be a mission. We Buy Cars gets it. Life's short and time's precious. Get an offer online and sell your car within a day from wherever it suits you. It's really that simple with We Buy Cars. Shopping for your new ride. Discover thousands of vehicles online or in-store. We Buy Cars, South Africa's trusted way to buy and sell cars.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult day 3471. Fridays at work used to be great. 3 p.m., laptops off, music on, even a cheeky beer. Now I just sit with Teams open and pray that Monet from finance doesn't message me at 4:57 p.m.
Hating the corporate 9 to 5? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's easy and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
What does extraordinary mean to you?
Is it being voted South Africa's most trusted enterprise telco 2 years in a row?
Vodacom Business helps more than 133,000 businesses with AI, cloud, enterprise apps, IoT, and security. One seamless ecosystem. Together, let's build the extraordinary that sustains today and protects tomorrow. Start your journey at vodacombusiness.co.za. Further together. Vodacom Business.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. The EFF says it's hypocritical for Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie to call out racism when he himself has a history of uttering racial slurs towards black people. Over the weekend, old social media posts resurfaced in which McKenzie used several derogatory terms to describe black people. This comes just days after McKenzie filed hate speech charges against the Open Chat podcast for making offensive remarks about coloured people. Alfara Mushwana reports.
As Patriotic Alliance leader Gayton McKenzie calls for action against the Open Chat podcast, he's now facing scrutiny for tweets he posted over 10 years ago. Both the EFF and Action SA have called for his removal from cabinet, saying there cannot be a minister with a history of using offensive language towards specific racial groups. The political organizations contend that McKenzie's statements are not mere slips of the tongue, but rather deliberate remarks intended to cause harm. In a video message to supporters last week explaining why he was taking action against the podcasters, McKenzie said he had a zero-tolerance approach to racism in the party and even dismissed one of its own members for using the K-word.
I have fired somebody, a pastor actually, on the Cape Flats because he called people. I fired him on the spot.
Action SA has now reported McKenzie to the South African Human Rights Commission. Alfa Ramshwana, Eyewitness News.
Basic Education Minister Siviwe Gwagube has appealed to politicians not to use the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill as a political football. The chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee, Joy Maimela, this weekend said that the committee was unhappy that only 2 draft regulations from the Act were gazetted by Gwagube last week. Maimela claims the regulations contradict Parliament's intention to transform the education sector. Lindsay Dentlinker reports.
The new Act makes Grade R compulsory and regulates the admission and language policies of schools. But Parliament Committee Chairperson Joy Maimela says Minister Siviwe Gwagube was expected to gazette all the regulations to the Act in one go and not in a piecemeal fashion. Maimela says it also appears the regulations on school admissions are contrary to the Act's intentions and will once again exclude disadvantaged learners based on location. But Gwagube says the regulations were carefully considered and drafted by a group of experts.
There are still leaders in the country who are hell-bent on politicizing this piece of legislation, a piece of legislation that is going to help us bring coherence in the schooling system and in our education system.
Maimela says Gwagube can expect robust engagement with the committee on these regulations. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
And Gauteng's Economic Development and Finance MEC, Lebogang Maile, says the province has cemented its status as the most visited province in the country and the continent's most globally connected tourism gateway. Maile was speaking during a departmental performance update yesterday, where he revealed that during the 2024-2025 financial year, Gauteng welcomed 3.8 million international visitors. Maile also highlighted the economic boost for local businesses, with small, medium and micro enterprises earning 19 million rand in the same period.
Foreign direct spend or international tourism revenue contribution also rose to a whopping 41 billion rands, smashing our target of 29 billion decisively. This growth was not accidental. It is a product of targeted strategic investment in increased airlift capacity.
Gold is trading at $3,359.44 an ounce. The rand is at 17.74 to the dollar, 23.86 to the pound, 20.67 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $65.95 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got an accident on the N3 North. In fact, a car on fire along the Geldenhuys interchange. Delays coming out of the Earlands turn off. About a 20-minute hold up there. I see traffic is also affected on the N12 East towards the Earlands interchange, while traveling on the N12 West heading towards the Bedford View area. Delays from Edenville Road to the Gilulis interchange. Please be on the lookout there and continue driving with care.
A fine day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 20 and 21 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. The EFF says it's hypocritical for Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie to call out racism when he himself has a history of uttering racial slurs.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
What are the matters that matter to you?
702 listens.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7.
And 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Six minutes past 10, the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia in for Clement. Welcome to the second hour of the show. That condition I was trying to name earlier on, somebody just mentioned it, with Uncle Ruckus when I was speaking about Gayton McKenzie, is reverse vertigo. That's what he would say, yes. And that's what the minister's being accused of. But anyway, it's a different conversation. We move on. I want us to talk about the National Dialogue. It's been such a mess. The dialoguers themselves now clearly need to have a dialogue of sorts. I think attempts to mediate haven't worked out. There's been so much back and forth. And if you've watched the weekend reports, Lizeka Tandwa, Khotatso Madisha doing a really great job in the Sunday Times of speaking about what they believe are the big personalities behind the clash around the dialogue. Of course, that being the former president, Thabo Mbeki, and President Ramaphosa. But the foundations have pulled out and they gave us a myriad of reasons why. And at the heart of it, there's issues around funding that were mentioned, logistics issues that were mentioned. So that's the conversation we're going to have for the next 30 minutes. You've got questions, you've got comments, you want to weigh in on this. Remember, the National Dialogue, the first part of it, the convention, is meant to kick off this week. You can call in 011-883-0702, 072 1702 if you want to weigh in. But let's talk about that dialogue.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
As I said, President Ramaphosa says the organizing team for the National Dialogue has been restructured following the withdrawal of several legacy foundations. Last week, several foundations, including the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, the Steve Biko Foundation, Chief Albert Luthuli, Oliver and Adelaide Tambo, F.W. de Klerk, as well as the Archbishop Desmond and Leah Tutu Trust withdrew from the National Dialogue. They spoke about the issue of budget, insufficient time as far as conditions, and even the fact that for them this was meant to be a citizen-led initiative and it was losing that. Last week I spoke about the turf war around control that seems to have been unfolding. And so we are joined now by Lindiwe Gadd, who's a member of the Chief Albert Luthuli Foundation. Lindiwe was also part of that preparatory task team that was meant to be assisting with the convention. As I said, they have pulled out. Lindiwe, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Very much for giving us this opportunity.
I mean, you and I have kind of spoken a little bit last night, but for the listeners' sake, let's go back to the decision to withdraw. We had understood that the preparations were well underway. We saw an open letter even from former President Thabo Mbeki to John Steenhuisen about the DA's decision not to participate. And that open letter suggested that all was well underway, the preparations are in place, this dialogue is important, it's going to happen. And then suddenly, days really leading up to the first convention, the foundations pull out. Let's speak about the reason why the foundations felt uncomfortable continuing with the first convention.
Thank you very much. I think we need to just go back to the principles that civil society had looked at when we looked at this idea of a national dialogue. And at the center of the principles was the idea that this should be a citizen-led process. And that means that both in form and in substance, citizens should be at the forefront of this endeavor. The National Dialogue is a process which is 12 months, that will take 12 months. It will involve 13,500 ward-based dialogues, about 50,000 citizen-led dialogues, and about 2.5 to 3 million citizens' engagements using various online platforms. When we say that the National Dialogue should be citizen-led, that is both in terms of the planning and the implementation of this endeavor. And it was therefore decided that the best platform to do the day-to-day implementation of the National Dialogue would be via NEDLAC, which is a nexus between government, labor, business, and civil society. Unfortunately, what came to pass was that with the budget only having been transferred last week on Tuesday, and given that the convention is taking place this Friday, NEDLAC itself was unable to capacitate itself to really manage an endeavor of this magnitude. And as a result, the involvement of government became increasingly evident. Various structures were set up in government, which were really now running the day-to-day activities towards the first national convention. Secondly, with the budget having only been received on Tuesday last week, as I've already said, we are concerned that the procurement processes for the first convention, which would involve 1,000 delegates coming from around 30 sectors, would potentially be compromised in terms of the PFMA. We had raised this particular flag at the inaugural meeting of the Eminent Persons Group, which took place early in July. We've raised it subsequently in multiple meetings of the preparatory task team where government representatives had been present. And eventually we raised it as well in a meeting with the president last week. So we felt that whilst we were, at the engine of this, increasingly government was involved in the planning and implementation, and that parallel structures that were not really giving us the answers that we required about how is this still a citizen-led initiative and how is the procurement happening such that it could be compliant.
The argument that some had put forward in government, and obviously I'm now quoting unnamed sources, was an argument that this is public good. This is a public good. It's public money. That wanting government to step aside with public funds isn't the right approach. That's what people had said to me. And some had even taken an attitude to say, but these are 5 families, private organizations, wanting to dictate what must happen with public money. That for me almost felt acrimonious in approach. And I don't know if that is what the feeling was at the table, that there is a trust deficit, even about the motive, even about every step of the planning and what is required. And in the trust deficit, then what you find is belligerence at every turn with everything that is needed. And that's kind of also how we got to where we were. I don't know if that's how you experienced it on your end.
Look, I don't want to go into an acrimonious debate about what so-and-so said and what so-and-so said. What we had said in terms of the oversight of the funding is that the funding should go to NEDLAC. If you look at the annual reports of NEDLAC over the past 5 years, they have been one of the seminal semi-government organizations which have actually had clean audits for 5 years running. And therefore, we had every confidence that in the hands of NEDLAC, those funds would be used in line with the PFMA. The difficulties started to arise when we, as the civil society groupings, some of the civil society groupings within the preparatory task team, started asking questions to say, how can we be a few weeks away from the first convention, and yet we have no understanding of how these procurement processes within government are taking place in line with the PFMA. And it's important that an endeavor like the National Convention, which is trying to cure some of the ills, including the use of public funds, should actually be able to have, to be allowed to ask questions and to get clear answers as to what are the procurement processes for a process such as this. If you can imagine, if you have a national convention with 1,000 delegates, it would be very difficult to imagine that you can have not a single item of procurement that is over R1 million. And in terms of the PFMA, it says any procurement over R1 million requires a 21-day advertising period to allow for fairness in the process. Now, if the funding only came through on Tuesday last week, I think any person, any rational person would want to ask the question, how can you do PFMA compliant procurement in such a short period of time? As I speak to you today, I still cannot give you an answer to that.
Do you think government was genuine in its participation in the dialogue? Do you think that genuine government coming out to the public saying, let's get behind this initiative, let's have South Africans talking, do you think it authentically, genuinely believed in the cause and was applying itself to what was being done, wanting to legitimately have this do what the foundations wanted it to produce?
We started engaging with emissaries of the president as early as September or October last year. And we had been working very well together, cooperatively, in a spirit of collegialism. The issues only arose really when we started asking questions about these procurement issues, when we started experiencing the planning structures and the implementation structures, where suddenly, as civil society, we became the smallest component of those structures, which again begs the question, is this really a civil society-led initiative? But at the same time, we had many statements coming from the president himself, as well as in the court case with the Labour Party, where he gave his commitment that this, whilst being funded by government, should not be government-driven or government-controlled. So we can only take the president at his word, and so I cannot comment beyond that.
And lastly, just before I let you go, you and I have had this conversation briefly when I interviewed you for news last night, that some of the claims around the issue of the money, the foundation says it's about the logistics, about the procurement, it's about putting together this project, bringing this project to life. But some of your counterparts in government have said these are foundations that need to keep people at work. These are foundations that are cash strapped and are eyeing this project as a way to continue existing and keeping themselves at work. These are foundations that we hardly hear of, that don't contribute as much to society, except for they come back annually to celebrate their patrons' anniversaries and the likes. That attitude and those kind of claims being leveled against the foundations, the motive of the foundations being questioned like that. Please, can you just respond to that?
I think it's very unfortunate that in disagreeing and having disagreements around these issues, that it can degenerate into accusations such as those. I don't want to get involved in a spat between ourselves and colleagues who are anonymous on the other side. What I can tell you is that when the call was made by President Thabo Mbeki last year, he called the foundations and said, are you willing to be part of such an endeavor? And we are all experiencing the challenges that South Africans experience on a day-to-day basis, where many things in our country are broken, where many of the hopes that we had for freedom and democracy have not become the lived reality of South Africans on the ground. We still have South Africans who lack water. We still have children going to schools where there are more students than a teacher can actually teach. We still have a massive issue of joblessness in this country. There are many, many problems. We don't have an economic plan where you can say, yes, this plan is going to take us forward to address joblessness, to address the challenges that entrepreneurs in this country have. And so that is what the National Dialogue is about. It is not about individuals. And I'm sure that this National Dialogue, with citizens getting involved, I hope, and it is our hope as the foundation, that it will continue to live up to its promise. And it is, again, if I could just say, This is about dialogue, South Africans talking to South Africans. And in talking, we need to be agreeable. We need to listen to each other respectfully, and we need to talk to each other respectfully. And so it is very disappointing that when discussing issues of principle, the matters can then degenerate into accusations against foundations or individuals and the such. That is not the spirit in which this national dialogue should take place. And I would really urge all parties to actually continue to deal with these matters in a manner that is respectful and that really takes at heart the interests of South Africans.
All right, thank you so much. That's Lindiwe Gadd, who's the former deputy chair of the National Dialogue's Preparatory Task Team. She also speaks, of course, on behalf of the Chief Albert Luthuli Foundation. I'm not surprised by how this has played out, despite, of course, that letter by former President Thabo Mbeki to John Steenhuisen that all was well and they're well on their way to this massive dialogue for South Africans. I also see on the TV that a media briefing about the dialogue is currently underway. They're discussing preparations, what's expected to happen. Remember, the first convention takes place this week. As I understand it, as of yesterday, 557 people from 28 sectors had confirmed. They had made provisions for 1,000 delegates. So I'm looking into some of the information coming out of that particular briefing. I'll update you a little bit more, but I want to stay with that topic. In a short while, I want to speak to Lukhona Mnguni, an analyst, just to make sense of what it's like when the turkey is being asked to vote for its Christmas, when it will be on the table, because that's actually what this dialogue is in a way.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
I want to bring on now political analyst Lukhona Mnguni. Lukhona, good morning. Thank you for joining us. I'd want to say the essence of the dialogue, from where I understand it, wants to look at what's gone wrong in the country, including the political elite. And it's asking the political elites to help facilitate this thing that will go back and say, you unfit for purpose. That's asking the turkey to participate in the Christmas where the turkey will be on the table and be carved. It wasn't going to work in the long run. Am I wrong?
Well, Tshidi, good morning, and good morning to your listeners. I suppose the water is a bit too muddied now. It's almost even impossible to know where to start. And of course, I think the greatest error in this entire process was thinking that you could have government simply financing a process and then walking away from it and handing it over to simply the foundations and civil society without wanting to necessarily be involved in the preparatory task teams and so on. That may well have been an error, and maybe if it was to be an entirely civil society-led, dialogue, it ought to have put up a massive fundraising effort to get the necessary funds from private individuals and entities, so that the control would be clearly rested with organizations outside of government. Once you get government involved and government money involved, you of course invite that mixed masala kind of approach. But let's not for a moment forget that to say you want to go to all of society and have a dialogue is a significant political statement and political issue. And therefore, there's always going to be political contestation of the center of power of that kind of process. And that's the unfortunate part here. And I think there was also just a flurry of too much ego and personalities in the room, and at the end of the day, being unable to be controlled and to focus on what the mission and the necessity of the dialogue is. Because whether the fallout of foundations or of some of the foundations with the process will have significant impact in the momentum of the national dialogue, we'll have to see on the 15th of August. But I do think that the 15th of August will most likely be quite an underwhelming event in many ways.
Yeah, a part of me, Lukhona, thinks that what we're headed for is what we've seen. We see Mbizos every other day. It feels to me very much like government will then facilitate what feels like an Mbizo, under the name National Dialogue, but it wouldn't be very different. And that's not the intention. And I don't know if you can weigh in on that, along with whether or not South Africans actually need to have a conversation. I've seen the arguments where people say it's too much money, it's a waste of time, that if you tune into any talk radio station, certainly if you listen to us, you hear what the issues are, you hear what South Africans are saying. The people who are in parliament, that some of the foundations, that at least the eminent persons group said to me, they want to hear what South Africans think. They tune in, they know how South Africans feel.
Look, Tshidi, by far and large, I think we all know the issues, to be quite frank. But I think the process of a national dialogue is to try and, get everybody behind some form of process that leads towards an outcome that is somewhat society-wide, led and co-owned. The question is whether or not our society politically is at a moment in history where it can find itself. I think our society is fragmenting into single issues, into regional issues that are by nature not easy to reconcile into one issue. So, for example, if you place the question of foreign nationals and illegal immigrants up on the table, I think we would probably debate many sides until the chickens come home, and there'll be no consensus on that particular issue. Mm-hmm. And so I think we need to be clear that once then the momentum to gravitate towards the national dialogue dissipates and different people shift and move away from it, it then does create a problem. And of course, so I'm saying there's no problem with the dialogue. There's no problem with going and doing a deep stick to try and form some national consensus on what needs to happen. But I'm not sure if the gatekeepers of the status quo are in the room and are well represented. I'm not sure if people are open to interrogating our reality and go back in time in history in doing that and face some painful truths about what has worked and what has not worked with our democratic dispensation, and whether or not then, which is where the skepticism came with some of the legacy foundations, as to whether or not they would be open to having some of their patrons and people being taken to task and criticized and all of that. So how do you then foster very serious and painful conversations? But I do think that what is probably going to happen come Friday is that you are going to have, yes, maybe an exaggerated, extravagant sort of imbizo, but I think you are also going to have a serious disagreement with process. I mean, I've always been saying, because I've been in conversation with some of the people in the preparatory task team. For example, if you look at the statement now that is being, read out by, I think, Boichoko from Kagiso Trust, it's quite clear. I mean, they're still talking about going to the National Convention to then come up with a steering coordinating committee for the national dialogue process. But the president has put the eminent persons group there. There's an entire preparatory task team. And I said, if you go to a national convention and you are trying to elect steering committees, you're going to collapse that thing into a power contestation and who becomes in and who becomes out. And you are going to probably divide and fragment civil society. And we've seen this in a number of processes where voting becomes now part of the problem of trying to set up these organizations. I mean, Defend Our Democracy went through that route and they've not really recovered from it. Unmute Civil Society went through that route, which was organized by the Trust. They've not recovered from it. So if you go to a national convention and you create room for power contestations, you probably collapse the process before it even begins because you contaminate it with politics rather than with substance.
In a sentence, really, how do they remedy this? Are there fixes? Can it be fixed?
I think it can be fixed. The president, in the first instance, must open up room to ask some of the elders in our society who are respected and trailblazing young people who are respected to come into the room and share some ideas. I think there's a need of reconfiguring entirely the setup and the multiple, bondokis of power that have been created in this. You need a central coordinating structure that's going to have clear power and authority over this process. And maybe it may well be that the presidency says, no, we've sponsored the National Convention. You can kick off, go fundraise, mobilize the private sector, get funding. You do need to get independent funding from government if this process is going to be citizens-led and not government-led. Because you can't have the same government, which people are very tired of, by the way, trying to get them into conversation. They don't really want to interact with government
That's
at this stage.
take.
So
Yeah.
that's the real difficulty here, Tshidi.
All right, thank you so much. That's Lukhona Mnguni weighing in there on the National Dialogue and warning really against the politicization of the entire process and how damning it could be. I still vacillate whether or not we need it or not. My take is South Africans do want to talk to one another. They want to find a way forward. I think they agree by government's involvement. It's a little bit after past. These are the headlines.
Thanks, Tshidi. Good morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa wants gender to be more mainstream in all government policy and must be applied in every challenge facing the country. He says no government decision or policy must be made without considering women and its impact on their everyday lives. Ramaphosa has detailed this in his latest newsletter, where he also calls on the upcoming National Dialogue to be a place for women to raise their voices. With the national budget passed and the GNU tensions having simmered somewhat, the DA again looks set to stoke the fires when it announces its reform plan today for 3 pieces of legislation. These include the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment, the Employment Equity Act, and the Expropriation Act. And the U.S. government says it's working on schedule a meeting between Donald Trump and his Russian and Ukrainian counterparts. Trump's Vice President J.D. Vance made the announcement yesterday as Ukraine's European allies push for Kyiv's presence at the U.S.-Russia summit in Alaska this week. The planned U.S.-Russia summit in Alaska without Zelensky had raised concerns that a deal would require Kyiv to cede most of territory which the European Union has rejected. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Travelling on the M1 North, we've got delays between the Crown Interchange and Car Street due to an accident while heading towards Braamfontein. Delays on Smith Street. This is just as you approach the M1 bridge, and that's due to roadworks taking place along this road. Both sides of the road are heavily backed up as a result. Please be on the lookout. In Germiston, we still have got that car on fire. It's on the N3 North, right near the Geldenis Interchange. Delays coming out of the Elands turn off. Please be on the lookout. There's also queuing traffic all the way towards the Gilulis Interchange. While travelling on the N12 West, delays between Edenville Road and the Gilulis Interchange. This is due to an earlier accident. And if you are travelling on the Olifantsfontein Road in the Tembisa area, please be on the lookout because there's delays towards the R21 exit and drive with care. We'll have more updates for you at the top of the hour. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
The temporary head of visible policing in the Moot district in Pretoria would not be so visible herself if she was patrolling the streets. According to a complaint by the Democratic Alliance, she's never worn a police uniform, has never been trained as an officer. Just a few weeks ago, she was behind bars, facing charges of fraud, corruption, and the abuse of the SAPS's Secret Service funds. Who will guard the guardians?
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
At the heart of global conversations shaping the future, Africa's voice matters more than ever. As Africa's largest bank by assets and lead sponsor of the B20 Summit, Standard Bank Group is proud to spotlight the continent's growth, partnerships and potentials on the world stage through informed dialogue and powerful partnerships. Standard Bank is driving sustainable growth where it matters most. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
What is Overtrail? Is it off the beaten path, over the edge of comfort, or the thrill of the road less taken? It's over every bridge, every obstacle, every trail, and over to that view that takes your breath away. Overtrail means going further, exploring deeper, surrounded by the comfort and sophistication of a luxury SUV. It's this spirit that inspired the Overtrail project. Experience Overtrail in the LX and GX range. Lexus. Experience amazing.
The thing about Decofurn furniture is that it isn't just furniture. A couch isn't just a couch. It's nights of warm blankets and just one more episode. A bed's more than a bed. It's how many times you can hit snooze before you really get in trouble. Even a rug can be a love story. Where's Dad? Make the warmest memories with Decofurn Furniture's winter clear-out sale. In-store now or at decofurnsa.co.za.
As a business owner, would you rather deal with stacks of slips at the end of each day or have recons done instantly? Introducing Yoko Counter, the new all-in-one payments and points of sale system that removes the guesswork, the paperwork, and the time drain. Taking your business from chaos to control, guesswork to clarity, giving you back time to focus on what truly matters. Visit yoko.com today to find out more about the simple yet powerful out-of-the-box solution with free built-in point of sale software.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
10:36, the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia in for Clement. Earlier, we were speaking about the National Dialogue. Lots of issues around the National Dialogue, which kicks off its first convention this week on the 15th at UNISA. I said that there was a media briefing. I want us to go in and listen a little bit. I think they're speaking about the political parties that have been involved. It's not about them, but they are allowed to be participants to also make inputs, I imagine. Let's take a quick listen.
Things are being asked, same guarantees and so on. And they have said that there is no money which is going to flout the PFMA. No money. Government has given those guarantees. And I think we should be able to take their commitment in good faith. Donations, who else has given donations? Transparency. The biggest donation so far even though it's in kind, is UNISA. And I think the spokesperson for UNISA is here. That is the biggest so far. When we're looking at the venue, we looked at other venues. I can tell you that the costs were quite high. So UNISA gave a donation. We also know, for instance, that other NGOs have donated in kind, as it was said, a lot. Their time, their resources, their traveling. Kagiso Trust has also donated, made a donation so far of about 2 million rand that they've put into the process. But it is really hope that there will be many, many other entities who support the future of this country, who are going to make a contribution to that. So if I've left some other questions, I'm not alone here. There are other members of the panel. Is there any question you want to take? Okay.
Yeah. Let me just re-emphasize some few issues. I think we must emphasize that the major cost of this convention is going to be community-level dialogues. If you think about the 4,000 plus of the ward-level dialogues across all 4,300 wards, and each will have 3 dialogues. We understand the process, and remember these things will be presented to the convention as it starts, with a very full detail of what has happened, so that there is also a seamless and clear handover to the newly established steering committee, which will be responsible for the process going forward. You'll have dialogues at the sectoral level, but those are structured process. A provision is also made for self-activation and convening of various, for example, a particular community in Skukuni, they will say, we are planning to have a dialogue in our community hall. The responsibility of the process is to make sure that they connect with those self-convening activities of communities so that they can be formally recorded to constitute part of the compact which will emerge at the end of the process. Therefore, the critical process will be to ensure that the infrastructure put in place to facilitate community-level dialogues, both structured and unstructured in terms of self-convening, are indeed captured in the process. So you can imagine the magnitude of that. even in terms of the cost factoring. For me, and I think that cost factor cannot be measured in terms of monetary reforms, and especially given the commitment for a number of contributions, venues at the local level from the churches and variety of other institutions. That will be the most significant component of this national dialogue as we go forward. Most of the issues Reverend Zo has addressed, but I want to address one particular issue also which was raised. Which activities were redirected from the foundations? There are no activities which were redirected. We actually accelerated some of the things which were generally slowed down. And one of the principles that we think informed us to continue with this process is that the more is debated in the boardrooms, it loses essence. It must be liberated to ordinary South Africans to own and drive the process. With the wisdom of that decision, we believe it remains the most significant decision. If there are limitations and imperfections, let South Africans determine that and correct them. We cannot correct them in the boardrooms. I was chairing the social mobilization subcommittee during the preparatory task team. And I can assure you that a whole lot of, like many other task teams, it does not mean that the departure of the foundations meant everybody who was involved in the preparatory processes left. They are remaining not to redirect, but to accelerate the preparedness to the convention as it takes place over the next 3-4 days. And I think that acceleration will speak for itself on Friday when we convene South Africans in this meeting. For me, that is the most significant part. Other debates, I think we can go on with them perpetually. The most important thing is that the South Africans must take over the process, refine it, determine, perfect it, starting with the convention going forward.
Thank you so much for that. That was the first round of questions. Of course, the panel, we're going to have the second round of questions to members of the media. I'll ask my colleague with the roving mic.
Thank you so much. What you heard there, courtesy of Newsroom, is a view really from the National Dialogue's preparatory task team, the restructured task team, if you may. Bichoko Ditlaka representing Kagiso Trust. I see the spokesperson there, Reverend, I think I just get his name wrong, but he's also one of the people there speaking about what the way forward is, saying that the departure of the foundations from the National Dialogue does not mean a slowing down of preparations, that in fact that they've accelerated preparations. And just giving a few details around the expected, the first convention, saying that there is no need for unnecessary delays, that they will be handing over, of course, to the broader representative steering committee, that UNISA is hosting the convention, providing associated goods and services free of charge. Facilities will also host facilities for an ops center. That's where the operations center will be. The donations have been received for the National Dialogue's digital platform. Delegates will travel via air, expecting people from the Western Cape, Eastern Cape, KZN, Northern Cape. Buses have also been organized. They'll be coming from this province, Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Northwest, Limpopo, the Free State, and then insisting that what we'll see on the 15th is that work has been put in, that the foundation's leaving doesn't mean anything, that they've accelerated, as I said, the actions. And of course, I think the bigger issue that we should be concerned about is the issue of public money, and they're saying that the the processes around budgets regarding the convention will adhere to the Public Finance Management Act and they're making sure that the costs for the upcoming convention are funded from existing budgets already of NEDLEC and the presidency for Secretariat Support, Communications and Logistics. That story is going to stay with us this entire week, of course, as we get to that first convention and we see how the dialogue goes. Will it be a watered down in Bizo? Only time will tell.
Welcome to the future of well-being. On 4 September, the world's brightest minds in mental mastery descend on Cape Town for the first ever Mind Matters Summit at the CTICC. Join best-selling author of Solve for Happy, Mo Godat, top neuroscientist, Dr. Tara Swart, and co-creator of the Human Growth Code, Christoph Faconia. And that's just the beginning. Olympic gold medalist Tatiana Smith and singer Lyra joins a lineup of South African champions, sharing the exact tools they use to rise, recover, and lead under pressure. Whether you're a business leader, creative, or game changer, if you're serious about your mental mastery, this day is for you. Clarity, energy, emotional mastery. Mind Matters Summit. Change your mind, change your life. Book now at mindmatters-summit.com. See you on 4 September. Proudly supported by Prime Media Cares.
Okay, truck 7, that has 0 warning lights. Truck 8, it's just been serviced. I guess we're running like a well-oiled machine. Where would I be without MyWay's comprehensive cover for my vans and trucks? Plus, cover for my customers' orders with goods and transit insurance. I guess we'll never know.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. MyWay is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's and standard rates apply. MyWay. Live your way.
My family's struggling with snotty noses and phlegmy coughs.
Oh no! Have you tried ACC?
ACC 600 is a convenient one-a-day effervescent tablet from 14 years of age, or now also in a no-water-needed, fruity-flavored sherbet-like granules that dissolve in your mouth. Ideal for the on-the-go adult. Ask for ACC 600 effervescent or oral powder at your nearest pharmacy to get rid of the snotties and flemmings. And trust, if it doesn't say ACC, it's not ACC.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
10:47. We're going to speak now to Alison Tilly from Judges Matter. I don't know if you caught this, but over the past few days, Chief Justice Mandisa Maya her office announcing the introduction of a sexual harassment policy for the judiciary. It's been described, of course, as quite necessary and urgent. A lot of us have been asking ourselves, what is the judiciary's role and its position on sexual harassment? Many of it, of course, coming off of that case that I think, again, leaves many jaws on the floor around the Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge and those sexual harassment claims that he's been facing at the Judicial Conduct Tribunal. It's a first, from my understanding. Those were brought, of course, by a secretary of his division. As I said, I'm joined on the line by Alison Tilly to understand this a little bit better. Alison is a coordinator at Judges Matter. Alison, good morning. Thank you for joining us. I mean, the Selby Mbenenge matter has made us ask a lot of questions, and a lot of us were surprised that this is a first of all, and that we don't actually have instruments or haven't dealt with this or are well equipped, even as a judiciary, to attend to matters like this within that particular space.
Well, I think one of the things that's maybe held it up is just this question about the status of judges. I mean, judges are not employees in the traditional sense. The judicial officers are independent. They're subject to a completely different set of rules. So it's maybe not so surprising that the rules around sexual harassment have not been perhaps as clear as they should be. I mean, obviously there's the labor law definition, but what this policy is doing is both giving clarity and depth to the definition of sexual harassment and also providing some mechanisms for people who want to raise a concern about it. So it's I think it's innovative in that way.
Let's speak a little bit more about it. What kind of gaps does this policy close and how does it apply?
Well, it's going to apply in relation to judicial officers, so judges and magistrates, and it will also apply in sort of court environment. And there's a couple of different options for people who want to complain. The idea is to establish a gender desk in the office of the Chief Justice, and people would be able to go and complain there, but in different ways. So you don't have to do a full-on Judicial Service Commission complaint like Ms. Mengu had to do. You can also raise a concern in confidence, ask for mediation. You can also just ask for help and say that you're not managing perhaps with the trauma that you've undergone, and the gender desk will then try and resource complainants in terms of psychosocial care. So there's different mechanisms at play, and I think it's quite flexible and can be adapted to what the complainant needs. So it intends to be victim-centered.
What kind of training then is needed there when you look at the judges, magistrates, the staffers themselves, even security, in trying to adapt to this kind of policy? I get that you're saying that it's quite flexible, but what would everybody else who needs to use it or be aware of it and how to get maximum benefit from it need to do? What kind of training is required by judicial officers in order to make sure that it's applied effectively?
And I think that's one of the things about the policy is that it tries to give some of the step-by-step on having people learn about the policy. So it's not expected that you're just going to, read it and understand. The idea is that there will be training, and people will have to attend the trainings, so that I think the understanding of the policy will be deeper and at all levels. So that's, I think, part of the implementation plan.
And with regards to matters relating to the judiciary, but happening in non-court environments, is there a way, is there recourse, does it allow for people to bring those issues connected to the judiciary, but not taking place in the courtroom environment, that they can complain? Is there room for those kind of issues to be raised and to be dealt with as well?
Well, I think it's, if it's something where, for example, it's a criminal matter affecting a magistrate, let's say, I don't think it would fall under the category of this sexual harassment policy, because it doesn't, it doesn't mean that you don't then have the whole system of criminal law. So that would be a different thing. But if you are in the court environment and something is happening that affects judicial officers, then the policy would apply.
And then in terms of the overall issue, I think one of the things that we all saw, the themes that a lot of us feel need to be addressed, is about the power imbalances. How does this help close that gap? I mean, never mind claims that have been put there around sexual harassment, the power imbalances of themselves present multitudes of different issues also that need to be addressed. How does a policy like this help to close that gap and to navigate it?
I think it's a very important question, because the difficulty with reporting sexual harassment is often that the one person is so much more senior and or so much more powerful. And the policy specifically tries to recognize that in the moment that person who is being harassed may not be able to immediately say something like stop or, this is unacceptable, but they may do something that would maybe turn away the comment, or, maybe laugh, try and distract away from it. And I think one of the policy is perfectly clear that it doesn't matter if that happens, it is still sexual harassment, that it's an unwanted advance of a sexual nature, and that is unacceptable. So I think it does do that, and then it also creates the reporting mechanism, so you don't have to directly confront somebody who is your boss or maybe your boss's boss, but you can then go to the gender desk and report it there and talk through your options. So it does give some, ways of dealing with it, but I think, that is exactly one of the problems, is that where you have these disparities, it is very difficult to deal with.
Just as we wrap up, though, Alison, at the start of this conversation, you spoke about why it took so long, and I think there's nuance that you're suggesting around the dealing with judges and recognizing them versus labor law and the likes. The kind of environment that this policy comes into, what is it like? What was the judiciary's track record? How was it dealing with issues of harassment and the likes? The track record of how it's managed these issues in the past, and what is the overall hope of the change in terms of impact it will have on the judiciary?
So if we look back in 2019, the International Bar Association brought out a report looking at sexual harassment in the judiciary, and it really was part of the thinking about why we had to tackle sexual harassment here in South Africa. Is that it's not just a problem in our jurisdiction; it is a problem which is international and which cuts across different jurisdictions. And so we've seen that the problem is there in terms of trying to go forward with the solution. It's really making sure that we think about the issues and really try to follow some of the proposals in the policy, and and then we'll see how that pans out. There will be an implementation phase, which I think we have to remember. So it's not necessarily going to all, it won't all hit the ground running all at the same time from what we can see. So we would expect to have it implemented over time.
All right. Thank you so much. That's Alison Tshidi from Judges Matter, speaking about the sexual harassment policy that's being introduced for the judiciary. I mean, the Chief Justice, Mandisa Maya, is saying that the judiciary, the policy will entrench a culture of accountability and respect that ensures that our judiciary remains a beacon of justice for everyone, for all, and that the policy reiterates the judiciary's unwavering commitment to the constitutional values of human dignity, equality, and justice, and that it also sends a clear message that sexual harassment has no place in the halls of justice. Thank you for that.
Choose the best. The new Huawei Pura 80 series. The master of photography. A super sensor with precision zoom. Stay sharp from dawn to dusk with a superior 1-inch ultralighting camera and ultralighting macro telephoto lens. The master of color, enhancing every frame with vibrant color and incredible clarity. Tricky lighting? No problem. Take portraits against the light with every face perfectly illuminated. It's more than a phone. It's a professional studio in your pocket. Go beyond with Huawei Pura 80 series.
Until the 20th of August, enjoy these fantastic mid-month savings only at Clicks. Buy Clicks 2-ply toilet paper, 18 rolls for only 99.99 per pack. Get Clicks made for baby dry protect disposable nappies jumbo pack, 2 for 175 Rand per pack and 1 for 199 Rand. And buy Clicks 2-ply jumbo kitchen roller towels, 2 rolls per pack, 2 for 110 Rand. It's Clicks Club's card 30th birthday. Get more deals and deeper discounts exclusive to members. If you're not a member yet, sign up today. Clicks Feel Good, Pay Less.
Dear Journal, day 3049 of trying to be an adult. I still haven't bought a recycling bin, so there's a mountain of cans in my kitchen that could collapse at any moment. Anyway, what's that saying about your home being a reflection of your mental state?
Got evicted from the family home? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Remember, after the news, it's going to be Family Matters. We're going to speak about step parenting. Please feel free to call in and tell us about your experiences. If you have questions, how do you navigate it? Feel free to give us a shout and to weigh in on the topic. How you're navigating step parenting. We'll have that conversation, of course, between 11 and 12. But for now, though, It's 11 on the notes. Here's a news update from EWN.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. President Cyril Ramaphosa wants gender to be more mainstream in all government policy and must be applied in every challenge facing the country. He says no government decision or policy must be made without considering women and its impact on their everyday lives. Ramaphosa has detailed this in his latest newsletter, where he also calls on the upcoming National Dialogue to be a place for women to raise their voices. Babalondenza reports.
President Ramaphosa says on Friday this week, several organizations from across the country will gather at the National Convention in Pretoria to kickstart the National Dialogue process. He says given the history of women's struggles in the country, it is expected that women will once again take center stage and participate actively in the National Dialogue process. Ramaphosa says a gendered lens must be consistently applied to every challenge facing the country and in developing and implementing solutions. He says women make up more than half of the country's population, and women are affected by every political, social and economic issue facing the country. With the first national convention taking place during Women's Month, Ramaphosa called on all sectors of society to come together to ensure their full participation. Babalo Ndenza, Eyewitness News.
Meanwhile, legacy foundations which have pulled out of the first leg of the National Dialogue insist it wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. The foundations, which formed part of the preparation task team, opted to not participate in this week's first convention of the dialogue. They've flagged concerns over procurement and constraints due to the delayed release of funds. But President Cyril Ramaphosa decided to push on with the event, with his office saying that the budget will depend on contributions, including donations and other resources. Attempts to mediate between government and the task team have been unsuccessful, and its deputy chairperson, Lindiwe Gadd, who also represents the Chief Albert Luthuli Foundation, says issues raised were mostly about logistics.
But coming out of that mediated process, it became clear that there are intractable differences from the foundations who have subsequently withdrawn and the colleagues on the other side, particularly those colleagues from government and the colleagues from Netherlands, to a lesser extent.
With the national budget passed and the GNU tensions having simmered somewhat, the DA again looks set to stoke the first fires when it announces its reform plan today for 3 pieces of legislation. These include the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment, the Employment Equity Act and the Expropriation Act. Lindsay Dentlinker takes a look.
The DA has made it clear it's not prepared to let go of its opposition to certain laws passed by the previous administration and before the formation of the GNU. In February, the party filed a case in the Western Cape High Court against the Expropriation Act to challenge the constitutionality of expropriation without compensation. The party's Minister of Public Works, Dean McPherson, is in the awkward position of having to implement it, with the court yet to hear the case. In May, the DA argued before the North Gauteng High Court that race quotas in the labour sector, as imposed by the Employment Equity Act, are unconstitutional. Judgment in that matter is still awaited. Today, the party's leader, John Steenhuisen, is expected to be joined by all DA ministers to present what the party says is a set of urgent, practical and implementable reforms and alternatives to these acts, and around which it will campaign. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
And the U.S. government says it's working to schedule a meeting between Donald Trump and his Russian and Ukrainian counterparts. Trump's Vice President J.D. Vance made the announcement yesterday as Ukraine's European allies push for Kyiv's presence at the U.S.-Russia summit in Alaska this week. The summit is expected to take place without Zelensky, who had raised concerns that a deal would require Kyiv to cede a lot of territory which the European Union has rejected. Tens of thousands of people have been killed since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, with millions forced to flee their homes. J.D. Vance says the U.S. is going to try to find some negotiated settlements.
Look, it's actually very simple. If you take where the current line of contact between Russia and Ukraine is, we're going to try to find some negotiated settlement that the Ukrainians and the Russians can live with, where they can live in relative peace, where the killing stops.
Gold is trading at $3,359.44 an ounce. The rand is at 17.74 to the dollar, 23.86 to the pound, 20.67 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $65.95 a barrel.
Traffic remains heavily backed up on the N3 North between the Yelands interchange and the Geldenes interchange due to that vehicle on fire. Please be on the lookout there. Traveling on the N3 South, delays between the Kiludis interchange and the Geldenes turn off.
A fine day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 20 and 21 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. President Cyril Ramaphosa wants gender to be more mainstream in all government policy and must be applied in every challenge facing the country.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702 listens.
We are listening to you. 702.
Live.
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7.
And 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Welcome back. It's 6 minutes past 11. You're through to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia standing in for Clement Manyathela. So the third and final hour on a Monday is dedicated to family matters. Today, we're specifically focusing on step parenting. I don't know if you are one, if you've got questions, if you're about to become one, if you're navigating that space, you are more than welcome to put questions to our experts or weigh in and give us some of your anecdotes. What are your experiences? What have you learned? All up for it. Our lines remain open throughout this hour on 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. That's for your voice notes and WhatsApps.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
All right, so we are joined now via Zoom by parenting coach Tuto Lipoto. We're speaking about step parenting. So today's age, in today's world, many families are blended. They bring together children, parents from different homes with different histories to build something anew. So step parenting can be incredibly rewarding, but it can also be incredibly challenging. In South Africa, where families are shaped by diverse cultures, traditions, and unique social circumstances, step parents often have to navigate complex emotions, relationships, and expectations. So that's the conversation that we are having this hour. Tuto, good afternoon, good morning. I think it's afternoon. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Tshidi. How are you? I'm very well. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you very, very much. I mean, it is a difficult topic that we are having because it can be incredibly rewarding, as I said. It can be incredibly difficult. It's also very difficult to talk about. I actually want to start there. Why is it difficult for people who ask their parents to speak about their experiences in the first place, to be open to say, hi, this thing isn't working, it's difficult, I'm finding it hard to navigate a blended family?
Tshidi, you see, the biggest problem is this. One of the disadvantages of this is that we such a type of family is not a discussion in our family setting. We never have discussions about it. We never ever remember we were brought up by grandmothers and mothers who brought us up in a way that we are told what to do. We are never ever given an opportunity to have discussions. If a particular cousin or particular child does not have a parent, and here in this family cannot be brought up, the child will simply be taken and be dropped at the uncle's place without any discussion to say, now you are going to stay with the uncle. He's going to play the role of parenting in your life. You have to listen to him. He's the one now responsible for your upbringing and your grooming. So you find that we're faced with the narrative of the background that we are coming from, that we don't get an opportunity to, be part of an engagement where we are put in, in a mindset of understanding what step parenting or the type of environment that as children or as families we decide to put ourselves in.
So we grow up in a children are to be seen and not heard environments. So that already takes away the conversation.
Exactly.
But what other challenges though
Yeah.
are we seeing in South Africa as far as the parents are concerned?
See, one of the biggest challenges that I'm facing, especially in my agents and my consultation, I've come across this massive trend. I would call it a trend, where you'll find that people who decide or who are embarking in a blended family make a big mistake of in the beginning, not engaging the children. So in the beginning, you find that most couples, it's about them. It's about them coming together, and all the discussions are centered around them, and they exclude these kids, whether from the male partner or the female partner. But the biggest challenge is there is no inclusion in the discussion about these kids that are involved in this prospective blended family that we are talking about. So you'll find that then the biggest challenge then becomes when then the blended family of we have decided to move in together. Now the kids are coming in, and then at a later stage, only then do we then start to have discussions about now the kids are here, but we omitted to do that in the beginning, and that causes a lot of discord because now these kids, you did not start them at foundation level to engage them to say we are going to be together, this is what we are going to do, this is what we wish this family to be. So instead we are just it's like they just jump into a moving train, and that becomes a problem.
Do you think that enough couples actually talk about what lies ahead when they are putting together two different families and children from different backgrounds, bringing them together to be one? Do you think enough couples talk about what that would look like and what the vision is, and even go through the potential challenges?
You see, one of the key elements when people come to me for consultation, specifically for step parenting, the first key point of departure that I always prompt couples or individual parents to look at is to always sit down and write the things that they wish this particular blended family to be. Write all of them down. Sit down and investigate and interrogate yourself. What is it that you want to achieve with this blended family? What you want to see of this blended family? And not only that, on the other flip side of the page, you need to write what are the things that could go wrong in the process of building this blended family, because that sort of creates then that element of anticipation of should things not go the way I'm anticipating them, then what are the solutions that I can put in place way ahead of time to make sure that I'm able to mitigate should they come up as challenges later on in the process. So it's important that as people, as families, we sit and we really think about these. We think about the good that we want to see in these blended families that we are actually thinking or planning to establish. But not only that, also to consider what could go wrong. What are the things that could go wrong so that you can prepare yourself? So preparation stage is critical for each and every individual or each and every family or couple that wants to establish a blended family.
And in terms of what they write down, is there ever a mismatch? I wonder, because sometimes you think things are bigger than what they really are. You think the problems might be bigger than what they are. Do you ever find a mismatch between what they think would go wrong and what actually goes wrong when they're bringing in different families?
In most cases, you do. You'll find a lot of mismatches, and that's exactly what we are trying to achieve. We want people to be clear from the beginning of what this whole entire blended family is about. We want people to zoom into the facts, the reality of what blended families is about. And when we ask or prompt them to do that, we even ask them to consider each and every child that's involved, not to engage them at that point in time, but as an individual parent to sit down and think, what state of emotional position is this child as we speak? How will they take it? If I come in this approach to introduce my partner, to introduce my intention of having a blended family, how will they take it? The character of the child, the character of the brother, the sister, how will they take it if you tell them I'm bringing a new dad in the house? or we going to be having a new mom in the house. All of those dynamics, we are trying to make sure that people face that in reality so that they don't get caught by surprise later on while they're busy building, to find that what they have been trying to do actually will not be, received warmly or positively. So that is what is key, to make sure that they come into terms and they come into the reality of what truly blended family bring with in terms of challenge and obstacles.
All right, I want to take a quick break. If you've got questions for Tuto, are you a step parent? Are you experiencing step parenting or even a stepchild? What is it that you wish could have been done differently for you when you got a step parent? I have a friend who always says to me, I don't ever want to be told to tell another man my father. My father is one. My stepdad is my stepdad. He's not my dad. So there's a back and forth, even about calling the parent. What is your experiences? Are you a step parent? Were you raised by step parents? I mean, there's another conversation that another friend raised about how even when you're a step parent and you go above and beyond for your stepchildren, they don't want you in their big moments. They still yearn for their biological parents, even though they failed them in some instances. 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702. That's also if you've got questions for our expert, Tuto Lepoto, who's a parenting coach. How do you navigate step parenting? Were you raised by one? How did it impact you? Let us know.
Mom, Dad, you're not gonna believe this.
What's up, bud?
Luke's family has a kitchen.
Okay.
Like a real one, with knives and a sink for dishes. His mom was just standing there, making food with her hands. There was a fridge full of vegetables, even broccoli.
Not broccoli.
Oh, the horror. Who needs a kitchen? Simply spend 200 Rand or more and you could win Simply Asia for a year. T's and C's apply. Simply Asia, connecting the Thai way.
The Standard Bank Joy of Jazz 2025 is diving deep into the heart and art of jazz this year. The legendary Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra with Wanton Marshalls are making a triumphant return to Joburg. Expect an unforgettable lineup with over 60 megastars gracing the stage, including Esperanza Spalding, Michelle Dingoncello, Omo Sangare, our very own Siam Kuzeni, Amanda Black, Vusi Matlasela, Dutuzo Makatini, the Benjamin Jafta Trio, and many more. Buy tickets to this incredible 3-day festival from the 26th to the 28th of September. Tickets are selling fast via Ticketmaster. Take me there.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct to give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
Quantum science has the potential to shape South Africa's next wave of innovation and global competitiveness. This Wednesday, 702 driver John Perlman will be in conversation with Wits University's Professor Andrew Forbes as they unpack the country's quantum strategy and what it means for our future. We'll also explore the breakthroughs in quantum computing, imaging, and photonics happening at Wits. Don't miss 702 driver John Perlman this Wednesday in conversation with Wits University, 3 to 7 p.m., shining a light on quantum futures, Wits for good on 702.
702.
Family Matters.
All right, as that says, it is time for the Family Matters feature. We're speaking about step parenting. What are your experiences? Are you a stepchild? How did it impact you? What do you wish they could have done differently? I mean, Tuto Lepoto, who we're in conversation with, said earlier that very often the conversation doesn't happen with the children. They just shipped off somewhere else. They're not seen, they're not heard. So that particular conversation is interesting to me, while you leave kids out and the kind of impact it has on children. Let us know, have you been raised by step parents? Are you navigating step parenting? What questions do you have? Are you facing challenges and you need some advice and guidance? 072-702-1702. That's where you can send in voice notes and WhatsApps. And if you want to speak to Tuto, you can call in on 011-883-0702. Tuto, the importance of a step-parent understanding the biological parents themselves and the relationship that the biological parent has with their children. I imagine that is an important one. It is something that someone like you will stress, but I think it's one a lot of people hit hurdles with. People speak about baby mama drama and how it's difficult navigating somebody else's partnership, baby daddies, that particular interaction.
It's very important. I mean, I've seen. I'm sorry to if I may sound probably offensive, but I've seen in different ethnic groups. There are ethnic groups in our country and in the world that are very brilliant in ensuring that they craft a very tight-knit relationship between the step parent and the biological parents, where you will find that there is a very warm relationship and understanding relationship of all the three parents or the four parents, if I may call it that way, where they know all four of them or all three of them that what comes first is a child, is the well-being of the child and making sure that the child finds support from all three of them or all four of them. And I think then it also comes back to what I started with, that if these discussions and these conversations are not had or we don't have them in the beginning, then a lot is omitted because we will not be able to understand how the child feels in the first place about this whole entire setup. You know, even before you introduce your partner, when you're still planning to do that, it's important that you start engaging your children about these things, engaging your partner about these things, that we need to start laying a foundation about this blended family first and find out from our children how they feel in our own individual capacity. So if I've got kids and my next partner that I'm planning to start has kids and I've got kids, we need to go in our own individual capacity and start engaging our children and say, hey, I have found a partner whom I love, but as much as I love the partner, it is important for you to understand that you are also as important as they are. How do you feel about me as a parent? What would you like to see if we were to be in a relationship with a person who is not your dad? And that gives us sort of an understanding that we need two things that we need from our children: building that rapport early in the stages of implementing. Secondly, emotional connection. From those two key elements, we're able to build a positive relationship and a positive understanding that we need going forward for blended families.
I want to bring in a couple of voice notes for you now. Some of the listeners have sent through questions and comments. Please take a listen.
Good morning, Tshidi. Good morning to your listeners and your guest there. You see, the problem of step parenting, if it's only one that you will grow with for a better part of your life, is better, because of you will learn to know that person as time goes on and on and on, and you start to respect him depending on what value they bring in you. The problem, however, is when you're going to be exposed to multiple step people, that becomes a problem for many people. So step parent, one of them is fine, as long as you can grow with them up until whatever age is fine, but multiple is a problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. I mean, Tuto, the rotating door of parents, I imagine that also affects a child's stability, but navigating that.
Yeah, it's you see, a lot of I've come across a lot of young people who are brought, especially in my youth coaching program as well, because I also do youth coaching. So on the youth coaching side of my business, the biggest challenge I found, which I see on the young people, it's anger and resentment. And when you go deep into the sessions and you consult with them, you discover that it all stems from the instability that they have been subjected to. So sometimes the listener is correct to say that there is nothing wrong with step parenting, but there must be order. And we must be careful as parents not to subject our children to environments of instability. Today, the child thinks, okay, now I'm finding my feet. And then the next thing, that person is gone. Another one is here. And remember, all these people are coming with different types of perception, different types of character, different types of approaches. And they end up causing confusion in the life of the child. They end up not knowing, who am I? Who's my dad? Why is this person here? And that resentment and that hatred then grows, because at the same time, what then lacks is enough time for the child to develop the emotional connection with the partner that is being introduced. So when there's no emotional connection, there's nowhere to build a relationship. So the biggest challenge is that these inconsistencies, these instabilities, they cause a lot of confusion and resentment, and our kids end up disconnecting not only from the family but also from us as their parents.
How do parents go about creating consistent rules and boundaries? Because I do think that part of the other issue that happens when you're navigating different parents is the issue of boundaries. That becomes a part of the conversation quite often.
Yeah, yeah. Look, see, the most important thing is, I always say this. If you want to establish, healthy boundaries and healthy rules, you've got to be emotionally connected to these children that are in this blended family. Very key, very important. There's a statement that I normally use with my clients to say, especially when it comes to step parenting, it is very important for you as a parent to understand this, that your speed in implementing and initiating this blended family must not be faster than the emotional pace of your children. I think I would repeat that. Your speed of initiating and developing or establishing this blended family must not be faster than the emotional pace of your children. So it's important to understand that we develop this emotional connection. We establish this rapport that we need with our children. We get to understand them. We get to understand and know them, understand their emotions, understand their state of mind, understand how they feel about themselves, about you having a partner, about you as a mother getting a new partner, you as a dad getting a new partner, their feel around that. First, deal with that situation, create that understanding, create that stability where the two of you understand each other and you are content with each other and you are in agreement with each other. When that has been achieved, then it becomes easy then to start saying, what are the boundaries that will make you comfortable in this blended family? What are the rules that would work for the both of us that I can be able to keep, you can be able to keep, so that we have mutual respect in this relationship, in this blended family? But without the rapport, without the emotional connection, being too hasty in establishing relationship and introducing a partner and initiating things, it can put you in a discord that you will not be able to have common ground to build such rules and boundaries.
I want to go back to the voice notes now for you, Tuto.
Hi, Tshidi. How do I go about, please ask your expert, how do I go about this situation now? Okay, so what had happened is that I had found out that my partner at the time had a child and I did not know about the child. And now he then, at the same time, he was having a child with another woman. And I had broken up with him years past, and I think a couple of years passed, like 5, 6 years passed, where we were not together. But then now, I still want to be with him. I realize that I do love him. And how do I go about healing and taking the role of being a stepmother to these children, which in a way are a trigger to me?
That conversation about healing becomes another thing where you also need to be in the right frame, I suppose, of mind and heart in order to be able to step parent better and to open yourself up to the challenges and building this new relationship. I'm just looking at the clock now. I'll give you an opportunity to respond to that when we do come back. I see another message on the WhatsApp line that I'd like you to consider a little bit. That comes from Anonymous that says, I was raised by a step parent who was very cruel towards me. But guess what? He's an amazing grandfather to my child. My child loves him so much. Just let them be. So maybe when we come back from the headlines, you'll be able to weigh in on that, where the one person had a relationship that's very difficult with the step parent, but they're different towards the grandchild. And of course, the voice note asking for advice on how to heal in order to be a better step parent. But for now, though, it is 11:30. Mongezi for course, but the headlines.
That's right, Tshidi. Good morning. The National Convention Organizing Committee says the withdrawal by legacy foundations has not affected its work. Now, last week, foundations, including that of Thabo Mbeki and Steve Biko, pulled out of the occasion over clashes with the presidency. The organization cited the rush to host the gathering this week, compromising the nature of the event being citizen-led. The convention committee explained that the foundations did not withdraw from the entire National Dialogue, but rather the preparatory task team. Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa wants gender to be more mainstream in all government policy and must be applied in every challenge facing the country. He says no government decision or policy must be made without considering women and its impact on their everyday lives. Ramaphosa has detailed this in his latest newsletter, where he's also calls on the upcoming National Dialogue to be a place for women to raise their voices. And the US government says it is working to schedule a meeting between Donald Trump and his Russian and Ukrainian counterparts. Trump's Vice President J.D. Vance made the announcement yesterday as Ukraine's European allies push for Kyiv's presence at the US-Russia summit in Alaska this week. The summit is expected to take place without Zelensky, which has raised concerns that the deal would require Kyiv to give up some of its territory, which the European Union has rejected. Now, those are the headlines. There's EWN and more at midday, or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling on the N3 North, we still have got huge delays coming out of the Yelands interchange. This is due to that car on fire right after the Geldenhuys interchange. There's also queuing traffic on the N3 South between the Gludys interchange and Van Buren Road. While traveling on the N12 West, we've got delays between Edenville Road and the Gludys interchange. Please be on the lookout there. Heading towards Eldorado Park via the Golden Highway, do expect delays coming out of the N1. This is due to the long-term roadworks taking place along this route, so please be patient and drive with care. Heading towards Midrand, some delays on the N1 South approaching Oliphantfontein Road, and in the city of Tshwane, roadworks are taking place along the R21 North right after the Flying Saucer interchange, and they are bound to cause delays. Please be on the lookout there and approach with care. Otherwise, I'm Amo Ramela Karabojali. Will have your next traffic update from the midday report onwards. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
As a business owner, would you rather deal with stacks of slips at the end of each day or have recons done instantly? Introducing Yoko Counter, the new all-in-one payments and points of sale system that removes the guesswork, the paperwork, and the time drain. Taking your business from chaos to control, guesswork to clarity, giving you back time to focus on what truly matters. Visit yoko.com today to find out more about the simple yet powerful out-of-the-box solution with free built-in point of sale software.
Do you know what's hiding behind the colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by the 30th of September.
The Money Show. Weekday evenings at 6.
If you look at everything that's going on at the moment, would it be fair to say that the MPC's job of targeting inflation is more complex, perhaps, than it's been for quite some time?
There's been lots of speculation and rumors in the market that Reserve Bank and National Treasury is basically at loggerheads. The Treasury preferring a bit of a higher number to give them some leeway within the legal framework versus a pointed target, which is quite more difficult to attain.
Freddie Mitchell is the chief economist at Aluma Capital.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by ABSA CIB, equipping you with efficient and secure cash management solutions for your business. Your story matters. ABSA is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
702.
Family Matters.
11:34. It is the Family Matters that we are discussing this hour. We're discussing the issue of step parenting. Before the headlines, I took a voice note and I kind of read a message for our expert. We joined by Tuto Lepoto, who's a parenting coach on the issue of step parenting. Tuto, the one lady was saying that she found out that her partner had a child. She left him. She felt betrayed, but realizes that she loves him, but wants to heal, to go back and be with them and turn step parent. So let's weigh in on that before we speak about the other message from Anonymous about the grandparents.
I think it's important for the partner to take to just dig into themselves, because if they don't do that, they will expose themselves and to an end up becoming a toxic environment. The first thing to do is to heal themselves. That's number one, very key. Heal from the breakup, heal from the pain that was inflicted on you by the act that was committed by your partner. But at the same time, as we have heard in the message that she says she loves him, it's okay. But I think also what is important is to understand that loving him means that he comes with all the kids, he comes with all the relationships, he comes with all the connections that he has with the children. So he's now subjecting herself to this environment, this zone where she is now having, to connect and find her place within that environment. As much as she came for the one person, but the one person comes with quite a number of things. So it's a very daunting exercise to find your place in an environment like that if you did not heal. So it's important, that's number one, you heal. Two, understand the role and the repercussions and all the challenges that come with you then going back to that environment. Those are the things that she needs to think through. Those are the things that she needs to consider first before moving back. And secondly, the last one for her is to ensure that there are thorough discussions with the partner, so that the partner also must understand, because she spoke of triggers as well, that there are those triggers that are there. So in order for her to be able to find ground and substance, if she moves back into that relationship, that obviously will be a blended family, it's important for her to have these thorough discussions with the partner, and there must be an understanding, and then there must be an approach that they will use, both of them, to ensure that they build this blended family together with an understanding, with one mind, with one approach.
Before I go to Petunia and Alberton, the message from Anonymous about the grandfather. I mean, how does that happen where this person was a stepfather to her, treated her badly, she's a child, and this person's really good to the child?
It's an unfortunate case. It's not the first case I've heard of before, where somebody says my step parent ill-treated me while I was, growing up, but they love my children more than me. At some point, I remember bringing the analogy to a client and saying, "How old is the parent?" And they say they are old, and I said, people change. People change. So the more older they grow, the more softer their hearts some becomes. And you find that your children are the lucky ones, even though you were not the lucky one. They may be harsh to you, they may be strict to you, they may ill treat you, which I'm not promoting, that it is a great thing, but I don't think it's an odd thing. And another point about that is I've seen it many times when people feel guilty later on in life about the things they've done. And especially people who are proud, who don't want to stoop down and say, "I'm sorry, I ill-treated you." Most of the time they will then reciprocate their ask of forgiveness by treating your children well, trying to pick up what is left of the broken pieces between what you had with them as a child, in terms of a parent-child relationship. So many times, sometimes you find that parents who behave like this, it's parents who will never come and say, "I'm sorry for ill-treating you," or raising you so harshly. But what they would rather do, they will then transfer this kind of warmth and love now to your children as a way of, remorse in a sense. But I would just recommend to her that, just love your stepdad, forgive them, and allow them to love your child if your child is really benefiting from the love that she's getting from them.
All right. Petunia and Alberton, good morning to you.
Morning, Tshidi. How are you?
Very good. You can go ahead. Twitter's listening.
Oh, I just wanted to add on the point that the guest has said. You know, the first thing you need to do is to heal. If you heal from the past relationship, and then you know that this thing is not only for me, it's for my child, then everything will go smooth. I have a child, and then I separated with the guy, but the stepmother that came to her life, she's so good. And the point that I want to make is, let's just take the anger, the issues that made you and the partner to fight or to get to a point that you are divorcing or you are separating. You don't need to extend it to the child so that you can have a smooth communication, fair relationship with the kid and the stepmother. So my point is, I want to shout out to my daughter's stepmother. She's so brilliant. We communicate so good. The point is, we are so good. That's all I want to say. So partnership is a first step to take. Just forget all about everything and then focus on the child. Then the relationship will be good. Thank you so much, Tshidi.
Thank you, Petunia. Petunia's out in Alberton. That's really nice, Tuto, where they can be examples where it's worked beautifully and people say we found one another and we co-parent really beautifully, even with the step parent.
Yeah. So do you see, that's the result of having proper discussions, genuine discussions about what truly matters. It's the child. As much as we as parents might have broken up, we've gone our separate ways, but we must come to the reality that everything must be for the best interest of the child. And we discuss the terms of reference towards that. How do we make sure that we achieve that for our children? And we become civilized individuals. And more importantly, and I think this is the reason why some listeners would say that doesn't work. It will not work if there are trust issues in these relationships. But in relationships where there is trust, we trust. I trust my wife that I can bring in the mother of my child into our home, into our picture, so that we can parent together. That there's nothing that will probably hinder our current relationship because now she's in the picture. Many relationships that I've dealt with, the biggest problem would be that. But I commend our listener who says that it is possible that they can partner and they can bring up the child in the most ideal environment with all the greatest support a child can get, because that's what we want for our children.
The issue of conflict, the handling of conflict, how important is it to be aware of what could potentially happen? Because very often what comes from conflict could become long-term resentment, and it completely shifts the relationship, and you can't undo the damage from being unable to manage one tiny issue.
Yes. The key important thing, I keep on repeating this, when we don't have emotional connections, we will struggle to establish all these critical aspects of step parenting or a parent-child relationship or a blended family. We will struggle. If we understand each other, if we are, we have found our common ground, amongst ourselves as a blended family, as a dad, as a mom, as a stepchild, once we get to that level where we understand each other, it is not a problem. It is not an issue. We find our way because we know each other. We know how to deal with each other. I know what makes my child, my stepdaughter, tick. I know what makes them happy. They know what makes me tick. They know what makes me happy. So the way that we will deal with each other will be from a point of view of understanding and knowing each other and loving each other and not wanting to hurt each other. So when conflicts arise, of which it's an everyday thing, conflicts can arise. But when we have an understanding of each other, when we have an understanding of how to deal with the next person, it becomes easy. So my biggest cue for that would be for people to take note of spending time to know your people. Ask questions, ask the relevant questions. What is it that you don't like? Those are the questions people don't ask. You just step into this family, you'll find this gentleman or you'll find this lady with a child, and you don't engage with the child. What do you like? What is it that you don't like? You just start by doing things. And by doing that, you are actually setting the fire alight. They say, I'm just going to do things without even asking. So to avoid conflict and to manage conflict and to deal with conflict, have those conversations, ask those critical questions so that you know people to the core. And when you know them to the core, you will know how to deal with them.
I'm going to go back to the WhatsApp line now. Please take a listen to this message.
Hi, Tshidi. I was raised by a step parent. I'm also a step parent. I've got a lovely, lovely daughter. But what do you do if the one parent, the mother, is not active in the daughter's life but wants to parent over the phone? I think that is the issue that I'm having right now, where I've reached out to say, please be active in your daughter's life, but she's not active. But yet, she's on the daughter's phone, finding out everything. And I've been with this child for over 10 years. She's still a minor, but that is my struggle. And now it affects me. I always have to second guess myself every time. There's so much things that I want to do for the child, but I get angry at sometimes that this person wants to interfere over the phone.
The parent who's not present but wants to interfere. And I wonder if, Tuto, when you address this, maybe speak to the other issue I flagged earlier, where I said, somebody said you have moments where the children, no matter what, at times want their biological parents. How must the parents deal with that? Do they feel alienated by that? Where you've poured in the work, the efforts, you bought the dress for the matric dance, but on the day of the matric dance, all they want to do is take pictures with their parents. Navigating those areas as well.
All right. I think the first important issue here, I will touch on your point about that type of an environment. But I think what is critically important here, especially the caller, is that the dad, if the dad is available, what is the dad doing to mitigate the situation? Because remember, you are a step parent to this young little girl. And the father needs to play their role as well to make sure that it creates balance for you so that you can parent, because this is a child that is staying with you. This is a child that you are bringing up and you have a very beautiful relationship with them. But the interference then is tampering with your good heart towards this child, your good wishes for this child and the good relationship that you have. And it's common, in many homes and in many relationships. So what I would rather suggest is that let's ask this man or your husband or your partner to step up and find a way that when the child is at your house where you are bringing them up, the child will live, under the auspices of your rules and your boundaries that you have set together for her to bring her up. And that the mother, whenever it's her chance then to bring up the child or to have the child visit or spend time with the child, then she can then, instill whatever values that she feels are good for her child. But I'm concerned about the fact that the dad, I don't hear anything about him in the picture. Where is he coming in to ensure that he brings stability so that you can bring up the child and there's no conflict and there's no competition when it comes to bring up this child? And also, Tshidi, what is critically important is for us to understand that when we parent these kids or we step parent our children, we must never compete, because every time the element of competition is becoming a problem, where the biological mother, as much as they are not the ones raising the child, but they will always want to make the stepmother feel or the stepdad feel that I'm the biological child. And that causes conflict. And at the same time, it is normal for our children to always be more aligned or be inclined towards their biological children. But here's the key here, that it also goes to speak to the nature of relationship, the level of relationship that you as a step parent has or have with the child. I've come across couples whose children or who are stepchildren, they are more close to their step parents than their biological parents. And there's nothing wrong, not that because they are competing, but it's the level at which they relate. It's the closeness of the connection. So what I would say is that people should be very strong in developing and establishing these emotional connections and these relations with the children, irrespective of whether they are step parents or their biological parents. So that at the end of the day, because remember, this parenting happens because of the relationship we have with the children. They children will listen to us. They do what we instruct them to do on the basis of how much respect they have for us and how much we are connected to them. So I think what I would say as my final word is they should focus on establishing concrete, solid relationship with their children, irrespective of whether you are a biological or step parent. But there should not be an element of competition, even when provoked. Try to keep your cool, try to ensure that you keep everything grounded so that the relationship between you and your child does not get broken by the fact that now you are pointing fingers at their biological parents.
All right, I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, I'll play more voice notes for Tuto.
Whenever you hear deep in the heart and art of jazz, think Sia Makuzeni with the big band, Jasmine Horn, Alun Wad, the Baylor Project, Jose James sings Badu, Umusangare, Esperanza Spalding, Michelle Dugiocello, Elaine, Tezo, Munei, Mondli Ngobo, and many other spectacular icons. Think Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival, 4 stages at the Santon Convention Center, 26th, 27th, and 28th September, and take me there. Book via Ticketmaster.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crushed prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is street ahead. Warrior Paints, affordable, lasting, luxury.
There's power in a single partner who helps you build a better employee benefits strategy. Begin with retirement, the foundation of securing your employee's future. Now layer in everyday health, mental wellness, and financial balance. And finally, essential protection for life's curveballs, from illness to income loss. Now that sounds like a complete benefit strategy. One that protects your people and powers your business. Talk to us at employeebenefits@oldmutual.com about Old Mutual Corporate's integrated employee benefits solutions. Old Mutual Corporate is a division of Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited, a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
702 Family Matters.
That's right. It's 11:52. Tshidi Madia in for Clement Manyathela. We're in conversation with Tuto Lipoto, a parenting coach, discussing step parenting 101. Tuto, before the break, I said I've got one more voice note that I'd like to play for you to weigh in on. Please just take a listen.
Morning. Just to share my experience with step parenting. I had a son and I married somebody. It wasn't a good idea because he was so abusive to my son. He just never really accepted him, rejected him from the start. I should have seen the red flags. The amount of trauma and everything that my son went through was horrific. Eventually, my son actually had to leave home, which was really, really hard for me, and it was hard for our relationship. Luckily, I have left that man, and my son and I are reconnecting. But really, ladies, if he doesn't like your kid, or love your kid, or take the kid in as his own, and not all people can do that, please, for God's sake, don't marry them. You will just destroy your children. Thanks, Janice and Benoni.
Thank you so much for that, Janice. Tuto, I pretty much think that this is kind of where I'd like you to wrap up the conversation. Weighing in on what Janice says, the red flags as well. What should parents be looking out for? I mean, what her son went through is a reality for some. What is the advice that you'd have for parents as well in that kind of space?
I think it's important. There is this great ill in our society where people, when they talk about starting lives together, sort of like when you have a child, that issue is just shoved to the back. We don't discuss it. We don't talk about it. We talk about our happiness. We talk about the future that we desire and the life that we want to build. And I think if we are to have these, deep conversations, that's where we'll be able to pick up so many red flags. And I'm so sorry for, our listener for having had to, watch his son being brutalized and all that. But I think what is key here is have this conversation. We just want to ask, the people of the Republic, have these conversations. Don't just go in because you guys love each other. There is a child involved. Your son is there. Your daughter is there. They are important. They still need you. They still need one to be brought up in a home that is warm, where they will grow up, in the best possible way. So what is key is let's have this conversation. Ask the even the painful questions. I've got a son. What are you going to do? What are you going to contribute to the bringing of my child? Not talking material things. How are you going to assist me to groom my child? Do you love my child? And all that. Do you accept my child? And all those things. And that is where, from those answers and asking the right questions, you'll be able to pick up so many red flags and things that might make you rethink, going into that family or building that blended family.
I'm running out of time, but I want to sneak in one more. Let me try and sneak in one more very quickly. Butsang and Centurion, very, very quickly. Let's try and get your question to Tuto.
Tshidi, good morning to your guests there. And you know what I wanted to say? I've heard all the comments and I've listened to people. I've been a step parent and I have my own biological kids. I got married without a child to a woman who had a daughter. And when we met, she was 8. We got married when she was 10, got divorced when the child was 12. I kept that child as my own child from age 12 alone until she was 28 and an old woman at the moment. So it's not all negative and gloom what people are talking about, and it's, my principle is we have said that child is my child when it was rosy and honeymoon. Why does it stop? That was my principle. Why does it stop for me to be a father to that child just because me and the mother, we have separated, and I refuse that to happen.
All right, Butsang. That's a really beautiful note. That's Butsang out in Centurion saying that when it was rosy, I was your parent. I'll remain your parent nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's important because then at the end of the day, it speaks to the kind of relationship they had with the daughter. And it's a kind of relationship that was unbreakable. So even if they separated as parents, but the relationship was so firm, was so stable that he continued to play a very pivotal role in helping groom this child to becoming a young woman.
And I'm going to leave it on that note. Thank you so much. Glad we actually finished on a lighter note, a lovely note, and what's possible and positive in step parenting. Thank you so much. That's Tuto Lepoto, who's a parenting coach, speaking to us there about step parenting. That it's about the connections, about the discussions as well.
To live wealthier, you need to be able to grow your assets. At Standard Bank Private, you get a team of internationally acclaimed financial experts to advise you on local and global investment strategies. Plus, being with a leader in home loans, you can start expanding your property portfolio. So, come live wealthier with Africa's best private bank. Apply online at standardbank.co.za. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Corporates that care, promote, and encourage corporate leaders and all citizens to walk the talk for a better South Africa. Catch Corporates That Care this Wednesday at 10 to 9 featuring Unilever Southern Africa. The CEO, Justin Apsey, will be in conversation with Bongani Bingwa. Join us every Wednesday as we highlight the efforts of companies and brands dedicated to building our country. Corporates That Care is a Prime Media Cares initiative with 702 and Prime Media Outdoor. 702, let's walk the talk and make a difference together.
Unfold extraordinary with the brand new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 5G 512 gig. Get it on a 6 gig Red Core plan from 1,749 per month over 36 months and double your storage with Vodacom, Mzansi's winning 5G network. Enhance your deal. Add 149 extra per month and get the Galaxy Watch 8 eSIM and Galaxy Buds 3. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
Coming up on the Midday Report with Mandy Wiener.
Coming up next, as the promise says, is the Midday Report with Mandy Wiener. National Dialogue galore, I imagine.
Yeah, National Dialogue galore. We've had that briefing today. John Steenhuisen is currently holding a briefing. Yes. The DA's strategy for an urgent reform plan looking at employment equity, BEE, and expropriation. The Sports and Culture Minister, Gayton McKenzie, denying he is a racist. Okay. For those watching us on YouTube, have a look at Timmy's
I
face.
know. Stop it, Mandy. He was on a Facebook Live. I do know. We've had the whole entire morning dedicated to this Gayton mess. And I think the sentiments from a lot of people is that he's unrepentant. But anyway, I'm going to leave it, yeah.
And we'll wrap up the weekend sport.
I hate Mandy. It's 12. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's 12 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Mungi Zikoko. The National Convention Organizing Committee has clarified the withdrawal of some legacy foundations from the planning leg of the dialogue. Last week, foundations including that of Thabo Mbeki, F.W. de Klerk and Steve Biko pulled out of the occasion over clashes with the presidency. The organization cited a lack of funding and insufficient time. Spokesperson Reverend Zowatau Nebutalu says the foundations did not withdraw from the entire national dialogue, but rather the preparatory task team.
The decision to withdraw